listening to the Bomb Hole.
Bomb Hole Podcast.
It's going to be very hot. It's going to be very uncomfortable for everybody.
The Bomb Hole.
I'm gonna slide down them big hills, you know what I mean, on the big, nice burgundy snowboard.
Okay, here we go again. We are back in the booth for the Bomb Hole, presented by Wild Mike, Solomon, and Pub Beer. Now, Stony Buds, how are you doing, my friend?
So good, Doug.
Scotty, how you doing?
Just amazing, honestly. I'm hopefully gonna be sitting in this seat for a while. A lot of influential, amazing snowboarders have sat in this seat, so hopefully it rubs off on me a little bit. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, Scotty's kind of chuckling because we actually pretty much did like 10 minutes of a podcast without me hitting record. So we're kind of jumping right back into the conversation.
It happens.
But we're happy to have you in the booth, Scotty. You know, like I said earlier, the only time I see you is on top of the damn podium. So it's good to have you in the garage with me and Buds kicking it with the boys.
I'm loving it. I'm stoked to be in here with the boys. Been a big fan, watched all the episodes. So honestly, super stoked to be here.
First Australian, too.
Is
us
it?
in the booth, yeah. Big deal for us.
Be careful.
You think there's going to be a bunch more coming now once we let one in?
Yeah, well, I don't think I'm going to get drunk off green tea, but if the other way around, it might be a bit scary.
You guys are a wild bunch, grown up on an island that was originally for prisoners, correct?
That is correct. I think that's what history says.
Well, one thing I want to jump right into is, you know, you've got an Olympic bronze, you got 3 world championships, you got tons of X Games medals. Now, like, there's snowboarders that inspire you, I'm sure, but, you know, you're probably like me in the fact that you love watching conventional sports like 30 for 30s and things like that. And I know, you know, who inspires you as a snowboarder, and also on the other side, who inspires you from the conventional side of things?
Yeah, I had a lot of people I looked up to snowboarding, and it was really cool. I mean, as a kid from Australia, I really never thought that I would get the opportunity to compete against a lot of those guys that I looked up to, like Danny Davis and Scotty Largo and Mason, and I mean, Luke Matrani. I mean, a lot of those guys, I kind of would just watch them on videos back in Australia, and then you know, I got to know them and compete against them, which was really cool. And so yeah, I mean, I always found a lot of inspiration from snowboarders, but I guess now more so, I mean, on a conventional sports side, like football and basketball and all those things. And I really do, you know, I look at people like Tom Brady, for example, or LeBron James, or, you know, those guys that have been around for a long time. Yeah, that was worth that. Yeah. And Kelly Slater, and I really do. I kind of think, you know, what am I doing that I can get a lot of longevity out of being a snowboarder? Because I feel like the stereotype of snowboarding, which I don't believe is true, is, you know, you hit, you know, 27, 28 years old, and people are kind of like, oh, he's going to fade out now. And I guess for me, I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to be in this as long as I can at the highest level I can. So I find a lot of inspiration from people like that. And especially now with the tricks and what's happening in the halfpipe, it's more so becoming a lifestyle of you got to look after yourself, and you got to, you know, take those steps to make sure you can show up and be able to do the tricks in the halfpipe. So yeah, I definitely find a lot of motivation from people outside of snowboarding as well as in.
Now, going back to the Tom Brady reference, which I highly appreciate, I know that he is kind of fueled by haters. Like, he almost doesn't want compliments. He's kind of one of those people that he's always said, you know, tell me I'm too old. Tell me I'm too old. Tell me I don't have it, you know? Does that, and you're not even that old, but does that type of stuff motivate you, some of those comments?
Yeah, definitely. I think, honestly, I feel like as long as I've ever been snowboarding, for example, I've kind of grown up always a little bit on the comment side on the back foot, because coming from Australia, you know, it was always, why would you be a snowboarder? Or, you know, that's not something you should be doing. And I've always, I guess I learnt over so much of my life experience that, yeah, I pretty much just almost had a chip on my shoulder, always prove people wrong. And like, it gets me high every single day, because I really thrive off people telling me that I can't do something. And yeah, I guess in Tom's case, I'm sure, you know, we obviously just won another Super Bowl I think I can understand how he would find a lot of motivation in that. And I guess I found that being, I guess, from where I'm from and striving to be a snowboarder. So,
well, one thing that's kind of fascinating with Tom and James kind of made a comparison. James Jackson is your coach. He's been on this podcast. He's an absolute champion. I'm going to give him an air horn. And basically, he was kind of saying that you're kind of willing to do whatever to, I don't want to say win, but like, you know, give yourself that edge, right? And that's something I find between Tom, you know, when you hear about Tom Brady, he's like, doesn't eat tomatoes, or he's like doing all this, like really like willing to sacrifice a lot of things in order to be a champion. Like you see him on, you know, you see yourself on top of the podium, you see, you know, Tom hoisting the Super Bowl above his head, and you don't see what goes in behind the scenes. And I think it's kind of, I love kind of dissecting what goes in behind the scenes and sacrifices that are made and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. I think we saw, I think Tom said he had a few avocado tequilas or something after he won the Super
He
Bowl.
looks shit-faced.
He looked like he got drunk real easy.
You know, yeah, so he's on that straight and narrow path, but it was nice to see a bit of human in him. And I do get, honestly, like, I do get a little bit worried sometimes. I am a very driven person to compete, and I think that it definitely puts up a guard for me sometimes where I maybe just look like quite a stiff individual. Like I've got one thing on my mind and that's it, and that's to win. Don't get me wrong. Like I definitely love winning, and snowboarding, it gives me the ability to do that at a high level, and I really enjoy that. But I think, you know, James, for example, you know, we make sure that we go up, and I didn't start snowboarding to win. And I think I started snowboarding because I loved it, and I loved going up with my family and going down the corduroy in Australia and hearing my dad doing the loudest U's you've ever heard. And that's what snowboarding was to me originally. And as I was growing up, it definitely, that transition changed a lot, where I had a lot of expectation on the competition from a young age. And that influenced me and my snowboarding in kind of the wrong light. And then I had to find it again. But yeah, I mean, now I love it more than I ever have. And I mean, we were making a joke about it, you know, go up, go through the half pipe, go up, go through the half pipe, go up, go through the half pipe. And it's, to some, it sounds like so repetitive and boring. But to me, I love it. Like I just genuinely haven't lost that passion for doing that. And I think I was never really great at school either. So snowboarding was like my connection to feeling like I was accepted at something and I was good at something. So, and it's only really this one thing that I've been, I guess, better than other people at from a young age. And then I kind of enjoyed that competition element. And then here I am now. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff I do in the background that I am very religious about, and there's a lot of elements, you know, as I said, I want to be doing this for a long time, and there's a lot of things that I kind of aspire. I mean, I want to go up and obviously compete and be competitive, but I want to do it in my way too. So I do, sorry, back to your question, but I do a lot of stretching. I pay a lot of attention to, you know, the food that I'm eating, and I guess a lot of elements that can make sure that I can go up every day and enjoy it as much as possible. So I feel like it gets to a point where sometimes, you know, maybe it's your body physically that doesn't want you to go up and you're not being able to do what you want. And I think that me being very on top of those things helps me go up and enjoy snowboarding every day for why I love it. And that's because I love it. And I feel like if I start kind of not caring as much about those things that I'm doing now, then eventually I'm going to go up and be like, oh, my back hurts, or this hurts, and it's kind of just a downward spiral from there. So I don't want that feeling. and I'm young still, but like,
how old are you?
I'm 26.
Damn, so young.
Yeah, like he's still he's comparing like the Brady. Brady's
like 40, right?
Over 40.
Over 40.
Yeah, but going back, there's a bunch of stuff I want to kind of circle back around and touch on. When you're talking about, again, you know, doing the laps or whatever, I got it. I didn't get in the pipe. We rode the half pipe together today, and it was good conditions actually. And I was like, okay, this thing's pretty goddamn fun. I could see the I can see the draw.
22 foot.
The 22 foot, yeah. But
Great crippler.
he
Do a
followed me.
tutorial video.
I tried to get in there and flex and let the dogs know I got a
some
little
moves.
bark in
Still
there.
got it.
Still got a little, just crippler wide open, no grab, like just waiting to land flat. But not. Let's pivot off of that and get back to the jump line, for example. The jump line, I get that same thing where I'm like, again. Like I get to the bottom, I'm like, again. And it reminds me of when I was a little kid jumping into the pool, and you do a flip off the diving board, and then you swim over to the edge, and then you run back to the diving board, and you do another flip,
another
and you're
one.
like, again. And that's what I love when you get a good lap going like that. But I was genuinely curious, because the other day when we showed up to that pipe, it was horrible conditions, like icy, there was a kink, and I'm like, I was thinking to myself, does Scotty enjoy this, or is this a job?
There's elements 100% where I'm like, this is a job. Like I have days where I feel a little bit like I don't really want to be here because of what you're saying. It's 22-foot wall. It's sheet ice. Might be snowing sideways. It's windy. And there's, I guess, there's definitely that element where I'm like, I'd prefer to be doing something else. But then in my other brain, I'm like, I kind of like that. Like that's like what I grew up riding. We didn't always have the best weather, and I still thrive on that. And I think I as well kind of see it as an opportunity when the weather's not that great to work on things that I wouldn't do on a really good day. So, and that might be riding switch or whatever it is. Maybe I'm being too serious and I need to have a joke and do some slashes or do some hand plants I've never done. So I try and like come out of every day with something that I'm happy about. But yeah, I mean, I've shown up at like events like China, for example. It was like 30-kilometer winds sideways, sheet ice, and like it makes me question what I'm doing. But then, I mean, I also love it. I don't know. It's a tough one to answer, honestly, but it definitely has its job moments, no doubt.
What made you settle in on Halfpipe?
Growing up, I always did both. I always did slopestyle, halfpipe, and I kind of always just naturally migrated to the halfpipe. I always really enjoyed it. I love the technicality of it. It always just got my heart pumping a little bit more. Just like the margin for error is very small. And yeah, I always just liked it. I think when I was like 13, well, from super young till I was 17, I went to Russia for both. I did slopestyle and halfpipe in Sochi, 2014 Olympics, and it was great. Like it was a goal of mine, but I kind of came out just feeling like a bit of jack of all trades, master of none. So, and I just kind of took a deep dive into what I really did love, and I loved halfpipe. So I just was like, I'm gonna really dedicate myself to the halfpipe and see how far I can go with it.
Looks like it worked, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So running back to the early Australia days, you grew up outside Melbourne. I don't know.
Melbourne.
Melbourne is the American way to say it. And then basically kind of were excelled at a young age. And then I think you were kind of like promising, won juniors, correct? And then ultimately people were kind of calling you the next Shaun White, from what I understand, right? There's some of that thrown around, and like how was kind of dealing with that pressure at a young age?
Yeah, it was. They did throw that around a little bit, and I don't know. It's an interesting one. I think I was like very talented when I was younger, like snowboarding. Like I'd go up and I would just do tricks without thinking about it, and I think like when you're quite young, like in any young kid does that, like go up, hit a bike jump or go surf a wave that looks really scary because you kind of don't have that fear factor yet. And I did a lot of competitions and I was doing really well in a lot of those competitions. And then when I was about 14 years old, I got an opportunity to go to my first Olympics in 2010. And then I just remember it so clearly, like I had this crazy transition from loving snowboarding to, so pardon my French, but fucking hating it. I really didn't like it. And because I was doing it for a reason other than why I started, and I had a lot of pressure around me as being this prodigy, and people were, I guess, trying to push me in that direction, which was great, and I appreciated all the support. But I think internally for me, I'd lost my love, and I was being told to do things that I didn't understand. And I went through this whole crazy phase of going into my teenage years. I became insecure. I cared a lot about what people thought of me. I guess I hit puberty. I was growing, and obviously being, a individual teenage boy, I would never show my emotion, and I kind of shrugged off anytime anyone would say anything to me, and I tried to act like the big guy, like everything was under control, but inside I was just like dying. Like my love for the sport was just kind of going out the window, which was really sad. And it wasn't really until, fortunately, I made the Olympics, which was great, but for me it was just like such a weight off my shoulders, because after that I felt like I could go back to being the Scotty James that I wanted to be. And even now to this day, like I remember those years when I was younger and I was doing quite well in competitions and winning junior jams at US Open. Now to this day I'm like, what would Scotty James do at 13 years old? Because that's like my happy place. And when I'm in that mind frame and mindset when I'm snowboarding, it's powerful for me. And when I went through that phase, it was a really good lesson for me to learn, because I learned a lot about myself. And I mean, that experience of going through that was pretty nuts. And I don't really like talk about it like seeking sympathy or thinking that I was hard done by and all this kind of stuff, but it's really good for me to think about it, because I learned at a young age the real meaning of life in a way, which was, we live a short life and we should go out and do what we love every single day. And fortunately mine is snowboarding, and I had to teach myself to find that again. So it sucks that you have to learn that super young, but I had a lot of, I guess, pressure, so I could never really talk about it. And I remember like super specifically one time I came back from a Europa Cup in Switzerland. I mean, in Switzerland. And I had all this like, Scotty, you have to do this at this event. If you don't, you might not go to the Olympics. And it just became all about the Olympics. And I was like, it sounded like a really good idea until I kind of started to dive into it a little bit. And I came home and I didn't do very well. I cut my week short, and I came home and I just remember being in my bed just like crying for like hours, because I felt like I let everyone down. And then from that day forward, I just like had a really hard time snowboarding. And then I found it again, and here I am. But it was a crazy experience for sure.
The pressure, huh?
Yeah. One thing that I heard about that I kind of want to just bookmark is the fact you're talking about trying to fit in. And I think that like as all humans, especially in the younger generation, you're trying to figure it out. You're trying to fit in. I can kind of relate to just trying to fit in. And it's, even now when I look at snowboarding, you look at kind of the core nucleus of snowboarding, our immediate circle. And like most people tend to like smoke weed, drink, fuck off. Like, and it's almost a way of fitting in. It's like, oh, I'm going to, and then going back to like a lot of the snowboarders that we're drawn to, you look at, myself, Danny Cass growing up, he was known for smoking weed, and he would like, how do I say it? I've watched him smoke a cannon and then go win Vans Triple Crown. And now there's a little bit more, and obviously you've expressed you like to have fun, but you also kind of take it seriously and are like, yeah, I want to win. I want to take care of my body. Sure, I'll have a couple beers here and there, but like I'm here to do business. And I admire that as much as, I just think that that's maybe not something that's always admired in the core nucleus of snowboarding. Do you ever feel that?
Yeah, for sure. I think, I like to go about my perception of snowboarding without an agenda. I think for me, as I said before, I am perceived as a very maybe more intense guy for snow, like as a snowboarder. I train, I go to the gym, I go up and I want to win events and I want to do all this kind of stuff, which I have no issue saying that is the truth. That is what I want to do. I think what kind of bums me out a little bit is that because sometimes I guess you talk about the core industry is that they have an agenda of what the perception of snowboarding is. But for me, I'm like, we're all snowboarding. Like, shouldn't we all just kind of just back each other? Because, yeah, I understand. Talk shit. I might be wearing skis. Then I get it. But, like, I'm out there doing it because I love it just as much as you and anyone at this table. And maybe I'm not doing those things that fit the mold of what their perception of a snowboarder is. But it doesn't mean that I'm not a snowboarder. It's like I grew up, first time I went snowboarding, I was 3 years old. Like, it's been my life. I'm not one of those guys that kind of went up, and I get it now. It's the perception of competition riders for sure. I mean, I see it a little bit in slopestyle and a little bit in halfpipe where people don't know how to turn and they go up and they hit airbags, and that's how they snowboard. Which I get, like, and honestly, I love a bit of shit talking too. Like, if people want to say something about me, I actually love it, and I think it's funny. I never take anything personally. So I'm not saying, like, we should all cut out talking shit about each other, but I just think that just because we aren't all on the same path striving for the same thing, but we all have a one plank of wood strapped to our feet, and we all love it for the same reason, then that's all that really matters at the end of the day. That's kind of how I view it. Like, you know, there's guys, like, I'm open to say, like, I don't think I have as good a style as many of the guys in the halfpipe and many of the guys that ride street or hit the backcountry, and I have the utmost respect for them because that's how they want to portray themselves to the world, and that's their vision of snowboarding. And this is mine. And it doesn't mean I don't love it more because I want to go up and I want to win competitions. It's like, that's how I love to snowboard. And that's just kind of it, I guess.
Dude, I love hearing that because I assumed, I'm just going to be totally honest. Like, I assumed even if I'm seeing you over at Woodward, you have your coach and you have, you know, and it almost seems like a serious training deal. That it almost seems like you don't maybe assume that somebody doesn't love it because you're like, oh, damn, they're taking it seriously like a job, which fucking all of us kind of are too when we're chucking on whatever we're chucking on. But I think it's just good. I'm so happy to hear that, like, the passion come out in your voice when you talk about something, because it's like maybe we had assumptions, or I can say I did, and it's cool to know, oh, this motherfucker loves this shit. That's awesome.
In fact remains, if you're not training on your level, you're not going to be the dude on the podium.
Yeah,
you have to be doing what you're doing, or else you're not going to be Scotty James that you are today. So
yeah,
I have so much respect for it.
Oh, thanks. I kind of had like an epiphany years ago, and I felt, honestly, like I'm very close-knit with my family, and they just, like, helped me achieve what I'm doing now so much that they would be sad to think that I ever think that I'm going to let them down, because you just don't do that with your family. It's unconditional love. But for me, I was just like, yeah, in a way I was going up, and I went through those years where maybe when I wasn't loving it as much, and where I wasn't as motivated, and I had these people around me that just wanted the best for me, and I kind of had this epiphany where I was just like, what am I doing? Like, if I don't want to go up, if I want to compete, I don't want to just go up and participate, because that's what I was doing. I'm like, I'm either here to do it properly or don't do it at all. And, like, since that day, I've just been so, like, driven, and it's more so because I know, like, what my parents did for me to get here, where I'm like, well, I'm going to fucking do it for you because you did that. Like, I mean, I'm from Australia. It's kind of unheard of for anyone, really. I mean, Tora Bright, you know, there were definitely some super big names in snowboarding from Australia and some young guys coming through. But I was like, I owe it to my family, who really put in the time to get me here. So I'm just going to go for it as long as I can, as hard as I can. And if we want to talk about competitions, I'm going to win as long as I can, because yes, I'm doing it for me, but I owe it to a lot of people as well. So my meaning and my drive and my passion isn't just about, I guess, winning. It's the big picture. So
God, that's such a good point. It's like if you want to honor the people that believe in you, fucking try hard. Like,
Yeah.
that's just a great point to
Yeah.
be taken there. Dude, I kind of want to talk about some Aussie shit.
I'm down.
You guys, there's not a lot of Aussie snowboarders, and you guys have a lot of Aussie pride. What do you guys think? I know you guys use meters, and we use feet in the
true.
States. Ours is better. What are your thoughts?
People always tell me about the toilet water going the opposite way. Say, oh, you ever notice the toilet water goes the opposite way? Like, no, I never. I just watch the water go down the toilet. I mean, I don't really think about
Yours
it.
goes counterclockwise.
Does it?
Yeah.
See, you're one of those guys.
It's
that
only
looked at
because you're just on the opposite side of the earth, and it's something to do with the poles. And
that. Okay, so
He's got the facts on this. He's your fact guy on that type of shit, always.
yeah, but yeah, not a miles guy. I mean, I feel like, if I'm honest, and I totally get it, because the United Kingdom came in, tried to basically take over the world. That was their goal, right? So when America were like, no, it's not happening here. And you guys were like, we're going to just go the complete opposite direction to everyone else because we're America and that's how we do it. And that's what I love about America, and that's what I love about the American people. Got so much pride. So if you want to do,
He's earning some brownie points with American
points.
if you want to do miles and you want to do your inches and whatnot, go for it. I get it, but yeah, I think I'm obviously so stuck in my kilometers and centimeters and whatnot that it's hard for me to make that adjustment. But what's even actually more, which is even trickier, is I don't know if you guys know this, but I have my pilot's license. I can fly planes, and knots is tough. Like when you're doing that conversion.
The wind speed is knots.
No idea what a
No,
knot is.
knots,
They use them
like-
on boats too, I think. Right?
Yeah, they use it on boats.
Yeah,
right?
boats is the same.
That's the speed.
Yeah, the speed.
Is knots. Yeah, I can't even do miles to
The thing that's great
AM
about
or whatever.
America, it's like we're gonna take feet, we're gonna take inches, like none of it's gonna fucking like actually combine properly. Miles, we use all these increments of things that don't make any sense. We're gonna make sure everybody else fucking learns them.
We
Welcome
just
to
want
America.
it our own way.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Another
love
Aussie
it.
question I have is, do you know anybody that's ever been beaten up by a boxing kangaroo?
I had a close encounter once. I was on my BMX bike with my friends riding across a paddock, and kangaroos are everywhere in Australia. And I was riding across this paddock, and I grew up in a town called Warrandyte, and the next suburb over was called like Eltham. And we were riding across anyway. And there's always like one kind of pretty staunch kangaroo in a. I'm not sure what a group of kangaroos is called.
A mob.
A mob.
Alpha
It
male?
is.
Were you talking about alpha male? Was that what you mean by
Yeah,
snow?
like a kind of bigger alpha male. And I was riding across, and I think he thought like there was some joeys, and I think he thought that we were like, I don't know, getting too close to them. And it started bouncing at me, and my friends had kind of rode off, and I had to jump over this barbed wire fence, and I got myself. It jumped over the fence, followed me. I ditched my I didn't ditch my bike. I grabbed it and I pulled myself into the corner of this barbed wire fence with my bike. And what they do is they get on their tail and like roost their legs at you like that. Like they've only got little T-Rex arms.
Mm-hmm.
They'll gut you with their feet.
So the boxing thing is.
Do they? So I forgive my ignorance, but they fuck people up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they
They
got
fuck
like
people up.
big claws too. But yeah, he gave me like 2 kicks and then jumped away, but it was pretty terrifying.
There's the big red ones too, right?
Yeah, they're the big ones
Up
in
north,
like
maybe?
yeah, right in the middle of Australia, like in the Nullarbor. They're like
And
big,
they're hella muscular.
huge, muscular.
Yeah.
They're like pushing 7 foot tall.
What's the other animal that's super tough, gets hit on the side of the road all the time?
Oh, wombats.
Wombat. Is
Yeah.
it true that wombats have square buttholes? 'Cause their poop is always square,
It's square.
and they build houses out of it.
Next time I'm driving and there's a dead wombat, I'll have a look and I'll
Dude,
send you a message.
I need to know why their poop comes out in squares.
These
It's
are
like
the hard-hitting
bricklayers.
topics we need to get to the bottom of.
Bricklayers, these wombats are.
I mean, it's efficient.
They
Efficient for building.
They live in these shit
Like a shit
houses.
igloo.
You could dry,
Shit igloo.
could dry it, use it as wood.
Also, other Aussie shit you guys use at the house, he calls the trash can the bin.
Yep.
What are some other ones people give you shit for in America? Got the bin. Soccer's called footy.
Yeah, footy.
TaylorMade is a pre-rolled cigarette, by a company.
Yeah, TaylorMade.
And a rollies when you roll it.
Yeah. We call those darts, though. Cigarettes are called darts in Australia. Yeah. What else do we have?
You have a different name for everything.
Pretty much have another language. My brother.
What did you call a truck the other day?
Ute.
A ute. They call the truck a ute.
Call it a ute. Like chuck your motorbikes in the back of the ute.
Motorbike too. That's also not really much of an American term.
That's a term I use, dude. I always get made fun of that. Maybe I learned that in Australia.
Welcome to the Motorbike Championships.
True. Yeah, it's. I guess you guys say motocross.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I guess it's all right to call them dirt bikes, right?
Yeah,
that works. That works.
He always gives me shit.
We got to get our jabs in where we can. It's important.
Go for it.
Let's get into our breakout moment presented by our friends over at 10 Barrel and Pub Beer. Pub Beer supports us. You should support them. Their tagline is cheap, fun beer. Now, Scotty, before snowboarding became a big, serious career, back when it was cheap and fun, do you have a memorable breakout moment?
A memorable breakout moment for me, actually, because it was such like a big deal as a junior to win the US Open Junior Jam. Like all the legends that were competing had won that. So that was kind of like, I guess, a breakout moment for me. I guess being doing a lot of those like junior events. I remember like my parents were like, this is the the big one, and a lot of other people were, and I remember as well, like I remember winning the Junior Jam, and Pat Bridges was there, and he started telling me about everyone who won the Junior Jam, and it was really awesome. But I think that's one that was kind of a breakout moment for me, where I started to carry that momentum competitively.
That was the Junior Jam at US Open?
Yeah, 2008.
Did your parents roll with you for these events?
Nah, my parents weren't there. No, they were at home in Australia. But
who was your coach? Legendary coach?
Legendary coach at the time was Mr. Benny Bright, Tora Bright's brother. He pretty much, both of them, the Brights were like my second family. I still talk to them all the time, Tora, and I see Benny around a lot. He's still coaching. But yeah, at the time he was the man that helped me. Dude,
shout out to those supportive parents that let a 13-year-old kid fly around to the Junior Jam with a bunch of, probably in a room with some people that are getting inebriated, or maybe you weren't in the circumference, and I don't know. Shout out to, let's give them an air horn. Yeah, seriously, air horn. My parents, they Tora obviously was on a great trajectory with a competition and a very straight shooter, so and Benny was too. He looked after me. He honestly was like, took super good care of me, and traveled with my books, and my mum would fly over to see me sometimes. And but yeah, I remember that day at the airport. Oof, when I left, I was 13, and I went to the airport, and I remember going to the airport because I was going away. I was going away for 6 months from my family, and I remember being like, "Don't cry, like don't do it, don't cry when you get to the airport." And I just like was thinking about it so much that I was like getting on my plane to go overseas, and it was just, it was shock. I pretty much cried from Melbourne to Sydney because I knew I wasn't going to see him for a long time. And don't mind admitting that, but seriously, credit to my parents, because as well, obviously it was such a massive commitment to send their youngest away. They also weren't really getting the most positive energy from anyone to let them do that either, because no one snowboards in Australia. You play tennis, you surf, you swim, you do those things that are in your backyard. So credit to my mum and dad to kind of realize my passion for snowboarding and letting me do it. So thanks, mum and dad. Give another air horn. Dude, 13's like a baby. Dude, you're not even, like, I think about when I was 13, you're like borderline just a child. Dude,
I would have been pretty hyped to leave for 6 months, though.
Straight up.
No, it was definitely awesome for sure. It was very, very cool. I mean, I learnt so many things at a 13 you don't learn at school. I mean, I would go back. I would go back to school and ask my teachers. I would come in and be like, "How are you?" And my friends would laugh at me. Like there's just like random things like that you learn out in the world at a young age. Like to ask someone how they are was like weird. I don't know. It was like,
because your friends didn't care about the teachers, or
no, just
they
like
just weren't, that social grace wasn't instilled in them yet.
Yeah, you don't really learn that like social. You don't like really learn how to be social, or almost like an adult, really.
Yeah,
like quite young. So
good way to do is just throw somebody in the mix. And one thing I want to footnote here is that you talk about the junior jam. I'm pretty sure that the last time Pat won a contest, it was the junior jam. And then to keep moving forward, going back to...
I think he told me that a few times.
Pat Bridges?
No, Pat Moore.
Oh, Pat Moore.
He won the
yeah.
junior jam, and it's a joke because he hasn't won anything since.
Oh, damn.
But going back to being... If you fast forward a little bit, you're 15. You go to Sochi. You're the youngest Australian... is it competitor to ever go to Sochi?
Yeah, it was. Sorry, it was
the Olympics.
Vancouver.
Or is it Vancouver? That's my bad. Sochi's So Vancouver, you're 15. You go for slope and half pipe, and that experience is wild. But one thing I want to talk about is then you go back to fucking school in Australia after being in the Olympics. You must have been the man, dude.
I definitely felt like man. I'm not gonna lie. I was coming back feeling pretty good with a head too big for my shoulders. But I went to my first Olympics in 2010. I was 15, and then after that, I went back to grade 9 at school, and it was a very funny transition because you're on kind of the world or the pinnacle of competition, I guess, and then a month later, I was like running out on the school football team in grade 9, just being super normal again. I don't want to say, like, honestly, it's not like superstardom fame or anything, but you kind of get a glimpse of, like, that attention of being on TV and people wanting to know about your life. That's not the usual case every day for a 15-year-old. So a lot of things that I was exposed to. But in a way, in the Australian culture, which I respect, but also has its dark sides, is that we're very grounding people. Like, you grow up, I go home, and even if I showed a glimpse of being a little bit too big for my shoes, it was just straight away like bashed out of me. Not literally physically, but like people let you know, like, all right, calm down, buddy. Just relax, don't get too big for your shoes. And the contrary to that, of what I mean by that is I love that about Americans in particular, or America, is that no dream's too big. And in Australia, it's a little bit different, where it's a bit more of a small town mentality, where it's like you can't be too big because I don't know why, but that's just the mentality. And
what do you think you're better than us or whatever that? But
exactly.
Yeah, interrupt. Go ahead.
A little bit of we call it tall poppy syndrome. So I came back and I went into grade 9 at school. So I definitely came from this amazing Olympic experience back to school. And I must say, like, my school that I went to was called Southwood. It was in Ringwood, near my hometown, and they were amazing. They were always so encouraging of me doing everything that I wanted to do. It was not conventional. Like, I would always miss first and second term of school because I was over here in the US riding, and they were super supportive of that. And then I would miss fourth term too. So honestly, that was like a huge thing for me too, because I tried to go, I went to a few schools and they basically, snowboarding was just not an option. Like, it was just like, okay, you either go to this school or you quit snowboarding. Like, that was the ultimatum. Obviously, I wanted to snowboard. So, and my parents helped me find that right place, and I found it, and it was cool. But it was definitely a crazy transition between going to the Olympics and going back to grade 9 at school.
I imagine the ladies were just lined up in 9th grade back from the Olympics.
9th grade, yeah. So I actually went to an all-boys school, Oh. So not too many ladies around.
You got robbed.
But I must say, we would catch the bus. So we had like a sister school. So we would catch the bus from Southwood over to Tintern, and we had about like 15 minutes with the girls before they would get on their bus to go home, and we would get on our bus to go home. So there might have been a few moments, 15-minute moments there where I was definitely
Definitely the man at the bus stop.
Yeah, flexing my Olympic status within the year 9.
I would have been wearing the medal or whatever.
Swear the uniform.
Yeah, the uniform, whatever I could.
Hey, do you guys know I went to the Olympics?
He's got a cutout of
I went to
himself.
the Olympics. Dude, going back to, anybody that's experienced like some type of success in their, late teens, early 20s that are at a younger age, there is like this moment where you need a family member, a friend. You got to get knocked down a couple pegs, because there's that early, it's first fame syndrome or whatever. I think there's a name for it, where you kind of you're like, I think I'm hot shit. And then you got to get like the shit kicked out of you in life. And then what role does your family, I feel like brothers and having family members, they're the first people to say some really mean shit to cut you down, right? What role did they play in kind of keeping you grounded?
Yeah, I mean, I could have been kind of coming off a great season or something, and it would have been as easy as me wanting to watch a TV show that my brothers didn't, and then the reality comes out of what they really think of me. So that's always it's always a sure telling moment of being grounded. But yeah, I mean, I've always had a super close, supportive family, and they've always helped me do everything that I want to do in my life. And obviously snowboarding is a huge part of my journey, and they're always very encouraging of that. And yeah, for sure. I mean, I had my moments where I was definitely coming home being pretty proud of myself, I would say. And I've got the youngest of 4, so I have an elder sister and 2 elder brothers, and they definitely kept me in check for sure. But also, I find like in snowboarding, I know it's like really big in like surfing, but like that kind of grom beat down mentality, it was still big when I was quite young. So I was always around guys that would like obviously not beat me down, but like make sure I was checked all the time, like, and it might have been stuff around the house. Like, as I said, I was 13 traveling around with Benny and Tor, and we'd be around people, and I'd be cleaning the house and cleaning up their shit and doing, not Benny and Tora, but other people around. So I was always like told to be grounded. I don't think that like kind of grom thing is much of a deal anymore. I don't know. Like, it's not really like I've heard some stories of guys growing up surfing that just had terrible,
a rough one, right?
Oh, rough. Like, taped to stop signs in Australia or give way signs in Australia naked, and just stuff like that. I never did any of that, but they were obviously all grounded differently, but I don't think it's much of a big deal nowadays.
Well, that brings us to our guest question. Our guest question is presented by Solomon Snowboards. If you're looking for a woman's snowboard and you're a woman or a man, check out the Solomon Gypsy. Desiree Melanson designed it. She did the graphic. There's all kinds of deeper meanings tied into the graphic. She puts her heart and soul into that thing. And it's just a great all-around women's board. Now, with that, let's get into the guest question.
Hey, Scotty. This is Andrew. When I was younger, I used to watch you ride the Australian mountains, and if memory serves me correct, you used to ride in bright pink furry cow pants. Do you still own those today? And if you did, would you wear them?
This is true. This is very true. I actually did. I went, I've always been, not as much now, but when I was younger, I was super out there. Like, I was wearing, the shoes with like fake bling on them, and the super oversized baggy pants, and in every single different color. I had pretty much zero color coordination. I was riding, I had my dad was a graphic designer, so I always had him put like crazy designs on my helmet and just the most horrendous colors you've ever seen. So I was pretty out there, but I had my dad make me these. We went down to I forget what the store's called, but they sell like material for like rugs and carpets, like interior designing place. It was called Blue Light, actually. And I went in there, and I picked out 3 different colored pants that they were going to make me that I would snowboard in, and we took them to a tailor and they made me pants. They were all like super shaggy rug too. Like and I was racing in them too at the time. Like that's what you did in Australia. Like you go through inter-schools and you like race and whatnot. And they were probably by far the most aerodynamic thing out there, and all the other kids were in their race suits. And I had these bright fluoro pink ones. I had some cow pants, like kind of cowhide, fake cowhide pants. And I just ran them. I loved it. Really, I mean, it was kind of nice too, because I did well in the races, and all these kids are wearing their race suits, and I wasn't about that. And I was wearing my cow pants and my pink pants.
Slap
That
some
was slowing me
respect on
down.
that.
Doing it your own way.
Dude, I think you should bring those things back, man. I think those are kind of on trend. I see a lot of people rocking, like if you had some fat Jenkos and just,
Yep.
switch your whole kit up, I think you'd just be just kind of right on trend with some of that stuff.
That's
to be
very
honest.
true. 100%. Yeah, I'm seen some good things floating around, but it's kind of, it goes back to like what I was saying. It was saying when I went through that transition of being super insecure, I lost all that stuff. That was like me. And that reflected pretty heavily on me being a snowboarder and being an individual. Like I was so worried about what people thought of me, and that I stopped doing those things that was like very, I guess, personalized to me. And, might have been whatever. It could have been wearing the cow pants or the pink pants or wearing something in the street. Like you just kind of go into this crazy shell. And then snowboarding is obviously all about how you express yourself up there. So if you can't express yourself in life, then you sure as hell can't do it when you're snowboarding. So I learnt that lesson. I'm not wearing my pink pants anymore, but I've definitely sorted out my insecurities of what people think of me for sure.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I love that topic just in itself. And what do you think kind of helped you navigate through being okay with yourself? I know it's kind of a broad question, but like, did you ever have an epiphany like, nobody gives a shit, or like that's where I've landed, as you get comfortable with yourself older? Do you have any insight to that?
I think a really good one that I've always stuck by now is, other than, your close individual people, but no one really cares about you. Like, people have opinions and they'll say what you're doing is right and wrong or whatever. But like at the end of the day, they're not losing sleep over something you're wearing, and they're not losing sleep over your decision making. It's like, it's their opinion. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and that's fine. But I think if we go through our days so worried about what Bob next door or Sandra down the street says about us, then you're kind of always never really going to be who you were made to be. And yeah, it sounds a little bit deep for sure, but I had this epiphany where, yes, snowboarding is somewhat of a, I guess, I go up and I get judged every day. It's like in competition, but there's this like perception of what a snowboarder should be. And I think, and that's not even just on the mountain, it's away from the mountain. It's, you should be drinking 5 beers or smoking weed or whatever it is. And that's, again, if you want to do that, go for it. Like, I have no issue of you doing that, but I think when I really took a hard look at myself, and I didn't really dive into any of that stuff anyway, but I had my moments where I was like, mate, it's like, should I have a beer? Like, I don't know. Like, I've just finished semifinals at US Open. I've got finals on Saturday. Like, everyone's like having a beer that I'm going to be like, maybe I should do that. I don't know. And I was just like, I could never navigate it. Like, now I'm like, hell no, I'm not doing that. I want to win on Saturday. Like, I'm not going to stand around and drink a beer. Like, I love doing that, but there's a time and a place. And forever I battled with that, because we all want to be accepted, not just in snowboarding. We want to be accepted in society and people that we admire and look up to. And I have a lot of people I look up to in snowboarding. And I think even now, I would love to be accepted. I'm not saying I'm not, but like, I definitely used to put such an emphasis on it that it kind of just like ruined me a little bit and what I thought was the right thing to do. And since I made that transition, every single day I'm like really, really happy, and I'm doing exactly what I want to do. And whether people agree with it or not, or they think I should be doing something else, like, I honestly just don't care. I'm like, this is me. You either like it or you don't. And I don't think I'm like, I don't really think I'm like what's the word? I'm not a dick, but I definitely, if I don't know, like sometimes I don't know where I'm going with that, but I just really like to give energy to things that I like to do instead of kind of wasting time doing things that I think that other people think I should be doing. That's the end of the sentence.
No, that's perfect. There's so much shit.
End of the sentence.
I know this shit's deep, but I don't give a fuck. I love talking about it, and I think that as snowboarders, you put your expectations on how somebody should be. Oh, they should be like this person. We like our winners to go get fucked up because then they're a common man like us. Or we like, there's an element of that too. And then also talking about what you said too, the thing I like when you're talking about putting energy towards people you care about, you could have 5 million followers on Instagram, and if shit hits the fan in your life, you're still only calling those handful of people that are close to you. So like, why not nourish those relationships to the people that are close to you instead of trying to get, like, a lot of times I'll say in my own personal life, maybe I'm spending too much time staring at my phone and I'm neglecting the relationship with the people close to me. And I think it's cool how you're kind of like, yeah, there's, from my perspective, you're not necessarily like socially trying to interact with every single person you meet, trying to be friends with every snowboarder, but you care about the ones in your corner, right? Is that a safe observation to say?
I would say, yeah, that's a safe observation. And what I was going with before, I think maybe sometimes, I don't know, maybe I paint this picture in my head, but maybe sometimes just I'm perceived as this super stiff, driven, I don't care about anything but winning kind of guy, which is fine. But and then also with that is there's this like, you're kind of a dick because you don't want to hang out with us and don't want to do all this stuff. And that's fine. Again, that's everyone's choice, but it's just like, it doesn't make me not like people or have an opinion about someone just because they don't want to do something. Mm-hmm. And I think at the end of the day, I feel like when people do that, like when they kind of get on you about, oh, why don't you drink a beer, or why don't you do this, and why don't you, get amongst us, it's kind of because they're, in a way, might be a big call, but they're kind of almost insecure about what they're doing. Like
100.
They might not be doing what they actually want to do. And they're kind of still fighting with that, like, shit, like I need to do that because I want to fit in. And again, like all of us, I mean, I want to fit in too, but I think I kind of I fit in my own way. I love snowboarding. I love everyone that's snowboarding. I watch snowboarding religiously. And yeah, I mean, we all can just live our own lives a little bit more, maybe. I don't know.
When your real friends aren't going to give you shit if you don't want to go have a beer,
Yeah,
the ones
exactly.
that aren't really even, that maybe don't know you that well.
Yeah.
And everyone wants to party with the winner. They used to have that 10% rule.
Yeah.
Luckily,
I've stuck to that, though.
Have you?
Yeah, sometimes. If I go out.
As long as there's not a competition in a day or whatever.
Yeah, maybe if there's not a competition in a day or so, but I definitely... Again, I love celebrating for sure. I mean,
when the time's right.
Exactly.
There's different ways to do it. You don't have to necessarily get cross-eyed and murder 98 beers, but that's one way to do it.
That is one way to do it.
I've done that myself. I think it might be time for you know what, buds.
Ooh, name that video part.
Here we go.
Uh-oh.
Scary.
Okay, you're a contest guy. Mm-hmm. We have a low expectation for you.
Okay. I appreciate that.
What's your confidence level 0 through 10?
The core inside of me is saying, yeah, you got this, but the comp guy is saying you've got no chance. So let's give it a go.
All right, here we go. It's an iconic part.
Is it? It's not in picture this, is it?
It is not in picture this that I know of.
Absinthe Films.
That's correct.
Future Proof.
That's correct.
Woo! I think is it like JP?
It is not. He's from Switzerland.
One of my favorites in Future was Gigi, but I don't think.
I don't know where Gigi's from.
Switzerland kind of gives it away. Austria. Gigi's from Austria.
So you said Switzerland?
He was on Burton for a long time.
Oh man, this is
Not
bad.
sure about his current sponsor situation, but it's Nicholas Mueller in
He's a conspiracy
absence.
theorist.
And this, let me
I'm
tell you
so
something.
sorry. That's probably the worst guy that you couldn't guess, honestly.
It's a great video part. It's the last
but
part.
you got movie
Yeah.
movie production company, so
Okay.
it's a win.
Yeah.
So
It's a win. It's
what
a
we
bomb
have
hole.
here is a bomb hole cooler filled with bomb hole mugs. We actually got some XL sweatpants
yeah.
stickers.
Amazing.
What you're gonna want to do? Take that, put it next to the Olympic gold medal, or sorry, bronze medal. Put it next to the X Games medals. It's right up there. It's actually more sought after than.
You know what
More,
we call
more sought after.
You know where we put this in Australia? It's called the pool room.
Oh, okay.
Pool room.
Yeah, it's where you put all your treasures, all your good stuff. It's called the pool room. Every good Aussie house has a pool room.
Pool room.
Yep.
Don't you guys have a funny name for AC/DC too?
Akadaka.
Akadaka.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a fun little fact.
Akadaka.
Akadaka.
Is that their actual name? Because aren't they Australian?
They're Australian.
Yeah, they're Australian. I know. Yeah. Bon Scott, like all those guys were Angus. I think was Angus. I'm gonna ask Sean. Was Angus English? Scottish. He was. Yeah, English was Scottish, but Bon Scott was from Australia, and yeah, pretty good. A classic pool room has like a little bar in it with plenty of skewies, as we say.
What's a skewy?
Skewy is just like a pint, but
all right.
smaller.
Oh, a little,
Is that
little
beer?
guy.
Smaller,
This is
yeah.
a beer.
Oh, mini beer.
Looks like a pint, yeah. And then you have some, you have like all the classic beers of Australia up on the wall. You got a pool table. That's what I called the pool room. And then you got all the stuff, it could have been a participation award of one of your children. That goes in the pool room.
That goes in the pool room.
Yeah. Doesn't matter what it is.
So that's where that cooler's going.
yeah, there you
Love
go.
it.
That's it.
Getting front
Exactly.
and centers, getting inside the glass, all the whole nine.
100%.
So we still have one more song for our listener viewers for Name That Video part. You guys know the drill. Comment on the photo of Scotty on Instagram for a chance to win what, buds?
A sticker pack.
That's correct. Here we go. That's a classic video part.
Not a clue for me on that one.
That one's actually familiar for me, but couldn't name it.
You can take a stab if you want.
Or we'll bleep it out if
I don't
you
want to
got
embarrass myself any more than I already have, not being able to name Nicholas Mueller's part. So
a tough one.
Well, he kind of gave me some low hanging fruit, kind of like some little crumbles that he might know.
Might know.
And so that was where we got that from. Now, let's kind of pivot into a topic that I want to talk about, and it was kind of a moment you had, right, where you were competing, you were doing pretty well, and then ultimately you kind of essentially were podiuming, but you weren't winning all the time, and you literally kind of flipped a switch and was like, I'm going to make a change and I'm going to go all in, correct?
the specific time I remember, it was very vivid for me. It was in 2000 and I think it was 2016. Yeah, it was 2016. End of the season. I still hadn't made like a US Open finals yet, and I'd missed out by one spot twice. And I was kind of like boiling up to this for a while, and I missed out again by one spot, and I just went home. My poor Red Bull helmet was in about 1,000 pieces. I just kind of lost my mind. And I was like, from that day forward, I remember I said it to myself. I was like, that's the last time I'm not making a finals at the US Open. And then from then onwards, there was a lot of other aspects that I had to change in my life to get to where I wanted to get to. One was how I was going about myself away from snowboarding, and that was more so definitely on the health side and like a few other things like that. I lost track of my why. Why was I doing it? And I think my why wasn't very strong at all. It was kind of like go up, participate, come home, might have done well, hang out with some people later kind of thing. And it was just like not really there wasn't much punch to my mentality. And then as well, the big picture, I was really looking about, as I touched on before, I thought about how much time my family had really put into it. And I just felt a little bit like I wanted to show them that I could do what we all really wanted me to achieve. And that was to be very competitive and I guess climb in the snowboarding world that I wanted to, which was competitively. And then it was a combination of a lot of things, but I think the biggest one was a lot about my why. I think, as I again touched on before, I was going up and I was participating and kind of like going through the motions, and from when I was quite young, I was definitely like talented at snowboarding. I would go up and I would learn tricks without even thinking about it, and I was did really well in the junior events. So I think there was a part of me too that knew that I had the talent to do it, and I knew that I had the ability to get there. I feel like if maybe I didn't have that initially, then it might have been like, what am I in for? And then, after that, I just really thought to myself, like, I'm not going to go through my snowboarding career just kind of being there and competing, and that really changed my drive. And flat out, I was just like, I want to dominate. Like, I want to be really competitive. And a big reason, I guess, as well, was not only did I want to do very well in the competition world, I also wanted to do it my way. I think, now I've very heavily gone down that kind of switch backside route, which had been touched before. People like Elijah Teeter, I know Brett Essie used to do a lot of switch backside riding. Zach Black did a lot of a lot of those guys, like, I watched growing up, and I noticed that there was kind of that niche area that no one really touched on, and rightfully so. I mean, even still now, I ride switchback a lot, and I still have a lot of issues with it. You really have to stroke it.
I want to interrupt that for the layman, because we have a lot of listeners that maybe aren't familiar with exactly what that is. So, basically just explain in kind of common man terms what it is and why it's so difficult. And
yeah, it would be like, to put it in the simplest way, it's basically, I would almost say, riding with your left hand, like naturally snowboarders always go cab, like in the half pipe.
On the toe edge.
And off the jumps, cab and switchback is pretty common, but in the half pipe, there's just so much technicality behind going switch backside. Like, you just feel so uncoordinated doing it. And I just really wanted to venture down that road. So I would just say that, it's like riding a essay with your left hand. And then it kind of never really, you get better at it maybe by the 5th or 6th page, but then you go back 5 or 6 pages again when you start to do it. So it's a very tough one. So I think, that was important for me in that turning point where I was going to do it. I was going to dedicate myself to it, but I also wanted to bring something to the table that people weren't really venturing down all that much. And that was kind of my way of being different. As I said, I'm not really someone, if I'm being honest, where I might over tweak a grab or I really emphasize stuff. And it's something I have to work on and I want to work on, because there's no better feeling in the world than really putting style into your tricks that you do. We mentioned James. It's always something he's really trying to drive home with me. So going and doing switch backside riding gave me a lot of reason why I wanted to go and portray that, and that was kind of the story I wanted to tell with my snowboarding. But yeah, I think it really just so many years of just being a participant and kind of just going through the motions and just kind of, I don't know, screwing off, I guess. I hit a boiling point myself, and I learnt that lesson myself, and I just wanted to make a difference for me, I guess.
Yeah, that's sick when you have that kind of, I don't want to call it a rock bottom, but like a switch where you're like, all right, I'm going to change my whole shit up. This isn't working. And then going back on the switchback side of things, we were riding half pipe today, and Scotty did a giant switch method. And I kind of made the analogy. I was like, look, you know, I feel like I'm a proficient snowboarder. I can go down a half pipe. Okay. But I was like, you know, if there's a gun to my family's head and they're like, you need to do a double cork in the half pipe, I think I could do one. But if there's a gun to my family's head and they're like, you need to do a 10-foot switch backside air, they're dead. Like that's not, there's no fucking way.
Wow.
Like that I can even make it like maybe 2 feet out. I can even go up the fucking wall. So one thing I asked you, I was like, how did you get so damn good at switch backside? And you had a great answer.
Yeah, I like just do it a lot. Like I just repetitively do it. I mean, I look at snowboarding in the half pipe, and you know, there's whispers of some pretty scary stuff like triple corks and whatnot, and go for it if you want, for sure. Like, I mean, if that's what people want to do, then do it. But I look at the half pipe and I'm like, well, we all do all these fantastic tricks, but no one's gone top to the bottom and done all those tricks at the amplitude switch. So I'm like, I'm going to be like a born-again goofy rider. I like don't want to ride regular anymore. And that's my way of being like, yeah, we can go down that route of doing very crazy stuff, which that will always be the case. There's always going to be someone pushing it. And I want to be one of those people too. I want to be pushing and doing some pretty crazy tricks as well. But I think in the half pipe specifically, technically, there's just so many more elements than, I guess I look at slopestyle and a jump, you know, you can go off a jump and you can spin each way. And I guess for them, they're at a point where, for sure, I mean, I watch slopestyle, I'm like, yeah, they're rewarding more spins, definitely. But the guys definitely still pay attention to, you know, what they're grabbing. And you do see those guys get rewarded, like Dusty Hendrickson, for example, at X Games. You know, he was rewarded for being creative and using his flair and portraying his version of snowboarding, and it paid off, and that's amazing. So I think it's really healthy, but I think, I mean, there's so many different things in the half pipe that we should be pushing instead of trying to go upside down one more time or trying to put an extra 180 on things. And we're really scraping the surface. I mean, guys are starting to do a few more alley-oops and whatnot. Like, for example, as you kind of related a frontside double cork to doing a switch backside air, like for me, I think about a super scary trick in the pipe, and it's frontside alley-oops. You can learn them and get very good at them, but it takes time. Like, you have to really like respect it. And I think that's the best way to kind of put switch riding. It's like you can be the best guy in the world and you can be this just absolute gifted individual at snowboarding, but drop in the half pipe and ride switch backside, that's a reality check, and you really have to respect it. And that's what I do every day. I don't go up going, I've done this 1,000 times, I know how to do it. I go up there going, all right, I'm gonna go through the motions and learn switch backside again, because we grow up and we only ride backside, frontside, backside, frontside, cab, backside, frontside, cab. You don't learn switch backside, just like no one does it. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna venture into this world, and I'm gonna do it as best that I can, and that's gonna be my way of evolution for half pipe snowboarding, and I'll stay on that path for sure, because there's always hard stuff to do. Switch.
The one thing I was listening to you talk about, how you have to respect the half pipe. That thing is so goddamn dangerous, you know. But it reminded me of like the surfers when they're talking about like going and surfing big waves. Like, man, you got to respect the wave. You got to respect the pipe when you drop in. Like you do though, right? Like it's like the thing will fuck you up.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. I mean, if you think about it, it's like a 3-story building from the top to the bottom. Your deck, you're falling down your head. We've all done it. Yeah, so you do. You gotta. I take nothing for granted in life. For a start, I don't take riding half pipe for granted, because it is dangerous. You know, we've seen, you know, some pretty sad accidents over the past years, and it is serious. And I think that as well is why I'm so on myself about how I'm treating myself away from the half pipe as well, because it's, it is as much a mentality as it is just going up there and doing stuff. And there's a lot of other things that associate to being great at whatever your chosen discipline is. So
How many people were up there in the pipe today?
not that many, actually.
It's crazy. Ever since it went 22,
Yeah.
people just kind of backed away. Because when I was young in the small pipes, everybody would be there
That's
hiking.
a good point.
Yeah.
Do you think the 22 killed?
Yeah,
Go
it's
ahead.
crazy to me because, when I was young, everyone, no matter what every aspect, no matter what you focused on in snowboarding, you would go to the half pipe. And when it was freshly cut, everybody was there. Everybody was hiking. And now you go there. One, you don't really even see people hiking as much.
Yep.
And two, this just went from 100 people to 5 or 10 people because it's so big and so crazy.
It is a really good point, because it is more scary than it is fun when you're doing stuff that is, pretty intense. Whereas when I grew up, riding 12-foot half pipes and stuff, it's a little bit more of an environment. There's less, mud, like there's less, I guess, risk, which it creates a better environment, which then creates, more people wanting to be a part of it. Because as soon as, I feel like when there's that factor of fear in anything, which is the 22-foot half pipe, which is scary, it kind of just makes people go, yeah, I don't want to do that. And it's a shame, because I would prefer if there were more people in it. And it's one of my goals. It's one of my whys, is like, I want people to want to go and ride the half pipe. And sometimes watching us do what we do is just really not that fun, really. Like, I think people are kind of like, oh, I don't want to do that. Whereas you watch someone ride a mini pipe and they're doing airs and whatnot, it looks fun.
And
So
they're
I
going
understand.
huge in this little pipe, right?
Yeah, I mean, hey, if we want to just get rid of 22s and go back to little hand-shaped pipes, by all means, I'm still going to love it just as much, and I'll be in there for sure. But yeah, it's a good point.
You know what they should do? I'm thinking about this coming from the motocross, a little bit. I got a foot in there. And what they have when you go to dirt bike races is they have like the big serious, maybe the Sunday main event of like people that are there to race, right? And then, all throughout the weekend they have your, rung what you brung, it's called, and you can bring like an old 1975 dirt bike and race it around the track, and it's like only 10 laps or something, and it's this fun kind of thing, and like it'd almost be sick where if you have these half pipe events, you have the 22-foot, that's the marquee event, right? Everybody's there to see it, but then also you have the 12-foot mini pipe invitational with the people that are, because like to me, growing, if you could do back-to-back sevens in the pipe, you're the man, and it was like fun, and you only had to go 5 feet out, and you're like, oh, let's get down. But then you get into that super pipe, and it's like you said, it's a turnoff, because you're really got to have some vinegar pumping to get comfortable in that thing. And so like, it's
Every day.
yeah,
That never changes.
yeah, that's another thing. Good point to make. But yeah, like how do you? I don't necessarily think that these, like, what are they called? Like, what do you think about these modified pipe events? Because I don't think that that's really doing it for me either.
Yeah, modified pipe is, I enjoy them, because I think the idea of that is, I would say, again, I would say this is more relevant to slopestyle, where someone that's never snowboarded in their life show up and they win events because they're spending all summer on a dry slope, but they don't actually know how to any board control or anything like that. So I can see why, like, you watch slope events, and pretty much the top 10 guys, like the guys that are actual snowboarders, can ride the transition. The rest are like, oh my goodness, what is going to happen? You just don't know. It makes it it makes it exciting.
Good point. Yeah.
And I enjoy watching it, and I'm not gonna lie, it's like when they're bringing the transition back, I'm like, I would love to ride slope again. And truth is, I can't ride rails. Rails scare me more than anything. Like, which I don't know. I'm terrible at rails. I think my rail line at the Sochi Olympics was like 50-50, 50-50, 50-50 front one out, and then I had a half decent jump line. But I've never ventured much down that. But I think it's for slopestyle, it's really good to see, because you get to see who can really snowboard. as well in the half pipe, like there's the modified pipes are really good. I think they're still trying to figure out like how they work and how it's scored and whatever else. But I think it is a healthy direction just to create that environment where you can push the limits as well as be creative. And I think that's the whole idea of it. And I've enjoyed it because, we've had like, for example, US Open, we had like a tombstone, so you could hand plant that, and then you could do something and exit out of the mini pipe, and then you go in and do 3 of your best tricks in the super pipe. It's really good. I think they're still like fine tuning it. I think there's still a lot of elements that probably need looking into. But I think in terms of the creativity and then involvement, which is what we all need, because I think snowboarding, I don't know, this might be my perception, but kind of like what you were saying, Eastone, is we're lacking a little bit of participation, which is also led to, I guess, maybe more so the money in snowboarding and sponsorships. I mean, there's a lot of factors as to why that's changed, but it might be also why people aren't doing it as much. I don't think it's stopping people from going up on the mountain and going riding. I think everyone still loves it, but we do need more people competing. And if the modified pipes and the modified slopestyle courses are going to do that, I think that's really healthy, because the more people we have involved, obviously the more coverage, the more exposure. And I think that's something that we need at the moment. And so, yeah, I think it's important. But why don't you like it, the modified pipe, or like haven't really?
When I watch the event, all right, the thing that's cool about watching, like for me, I'm a snowboarder, but I'm so disconnected from the ability of being able to do a fucking run like you guys do in the half pipe. Like, it's like me watching New England Patriots. Like, I have my, especially like I really get excited about slope style. I watch that, I like get the popcorn out. I'm like, just, it's a whole experience as a fan for me. So I'm coming at it from like a fan perspective, but when I look at like the early, you got a 12-foot transition and somebody's trying to like, do a front invert and then do their little thing. And then it's like just into the just hog show in the super pipe. So it's like, it's a little bit too, it's like mini pipe shit. And then to me, it doesn't blend quite right. So I don't know what the solution is. I'm just kind of being a hater, really.
Yeah.
But the side jump is sick. I do like the quarter pipe jump into the half pipe.
Yeah.
But maybe like that little mini transition just seemed like it was just kind of like thrown, like people would fall on the mini transition and then do like a 1440 in the pipe. And you're like, I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's a super good point. And I think these courses are really being developed because a lot of us are seeing it kind of going in a direction that maybe we don't want it to see. I think that's more relevant to slopestyle right now. Like, I've straight up, when I watched Big Air at X Games this year, I like almost didn't enjoy it. Like, it's just like it's like scary.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm all about everyone doing crazy stuff, but they're kind of getting to the point now where, like, you're doing an 1800 or you're doing a backside whatever, and it's like you're on your edge of the seat, not because you're excited to watch, but because I'm genuinely terrified, because I'm like, this is scary to watch. And then contrary to that is I watch the women's Big Air. Hands down the best women's event I've ever seen in my life. Like, it was the coolest thing to see, Jamie just doing flawless frontside tens,
so slow,
effortless. Yeah. And Kokomo, I think she was doing backside 12s. And like, they progress, and I saw, and we watched it, and I was like, I'm usually like on the edge of my seat watching the guys, but that's how I was watching the girls this year. I don't know what the evolution is of Big Air and slopestyle and whatnot, how they're going to change that. I think the modified stuff is a good direction. For the half pipe, I'm not sure. I think there could be like, I always hit jumps. Like, I would love there to be a jump in a modified half pipe course. Like, maybe do like a channel gap, right, that has 2 jumps, and then you drop into the half pipe. I don't know. Or maybe there's like, in the half pipe, the 22, there's, not like a tombstone in there, or like someone that obviously talks about this a lot is Danny, and he's been like such a pioneer for this, because I mean, he obviously oozes style, as we all know, but he's been such an advocate to make sure it's going in a healthy direction that I think it's not personally, but I think it's all of our responsibility to make sure that keeps happening, because if he's, going to phase out of competitions and things, I think it's very important for all of us to still be pretty vocal about it. And I liked it. I enjoyed it. But I think, as you're saying, from a spectator and like watching it, it probably definitely does need some work, because the way I always view events is like my friends back at home or people who know nothing about snowboarding, like that, they're the people that are going to bring what we need most, which is the coverage. And, being able to leverage them is how we end up bringing more infrastructure and all those kind of things into the sport. So sometimes when I look at events and how they change, scoring and whatever else, I'm like, you guys are just making this so hard for people to follow.
Mm-hmm.
And no one will ever understand it. Therefore, no one will ever care to watch it. So, like, make it straightforward. Don't try and make it so complicated, because we need those people to watch.
Totally. Yeah, good example. That's the jam format where it's like it still just runs, but you don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember an event, Red Bull double pipe at Snowmass or something.
Yeah.
Did you do well in that?
I got third, I think.
I was randomly there, actually.
Oh, you were?
It was...
You were that guy going like 20 foot out, right?
Definitely not.
Switch method, 20 foot? So
yeah, this guy going switch backside double overhead. That was absolutely me. But, dude, it was a jump into 2 half pipes. It was a cool event. I remember watching it, thinking it was cool. So
yeah, that was cool. And that was also like pretty scary as well.
The transfers are deadly.
Yeah. I broke my wrist the first year we did it. I went over the 22 transfer and decked and bounced into the bottom. But that was a good event because they started with a jump, which I loved, and then you went into the double pipe. And you could still do gnarly stuff, but what was rewarded more was like how you used it. So like let's say you do like a 6 foot air on the 22 over the 22 spine to the other side, that like was terrifying. But if you do more of that stuff, like it could progress to be quite cool. And I really liked watching guys like, I mean, for example, the year I got third, Starley, he came and he wasn't doing snowboard half pipe events at the time, but he ended up getting second because he was like, he's a great snowboarder. He knows how to ride transition. We weren't going in trying to throw our head backwards 4 times or anything like that. It was like, it was a real snowboarders event of who has good board control, who can ride this course really well, but also implement some good tricks. So that was a cool one.
I got a Patreon question for you, and 3 different people asked this. So I'll ask it on behalf of all of them, from Will, Tommy, as well as Joshua. How come guys like yourself and others on your level don't have board sponsors? Is it you're not really worried about it because you have these big sponsors like Red Bull? And
it's a really good question. I think it's like for me personally, I was going through a lot of snowboards. Like I was going through 5 a week at one point. And I'm definitely a bit taller and I'm kind of heavy. So I was just breaking them and I was going through them a lot. And I just kind of was like, look, I need to find something that's going to be durable. It's going to last me more than a day. And I ended up working with these guys in Switzerland who I still work with now. And they just custom make my snowboards. Basically accordingly to how I like it and whatnot. And then they don't break often. They break, but not very often, which is nice for me. But and then the other side is I think it's not that, I'm not like, oh, I don't want a board sponsor. It's just it's not like my mentality. But I think it's if someone came to me tomorrow and said, hey, we'd love to talk to you about doing a board sponsorship, I'd be like, yeah, let's talk about it. But I think for me personally, mine's more like, let's talk about it. And then how do we make something for me that's going to work for me? Because I think I want to make sure that I'm riding something that I can rely on, especially going faster and doing tricks and whatnot in the half pipe. That's my angle. Like that's kind of why I don't have a board sponsor. For other people, I'm not sure.
Well, that makes sense. You don't want a brand doesn't want you breaking one every day. They would have to make you a custom board. I didn't know you. That goes to show how gnarly that 22-foot pipe is, man.
Yeah, for sure. I was just breaking them a lot, and
The people want to know. I got asked who like specifically makes your boards. If you can talk about that.
who specifically? They're guys. They're called Channel 9 in Switzerland.
Heard of them.
They have just a tiny little factory, and they churn out some boards, and they're really cool. Love listener feedback, and you get exactly what you want, which is really awesome. And as I said, if I had that opportunity with anyone else, I'm always open to talking about it. But I think they're just they want to make sure that they give me exactly like what I'm looking for.
I got a chance to flex your board today, man, and it's like
Stiff.
these half pipe guys. They're like
Really?
stiff as a 2x4. These things.
My board, like the board I ride in the half pipe, I would just never ride it like on the mountain. It's just honestly super unenjoyable. Like I've built that, I've built that thing like 2-rider 22-foot half pipe. If I'm going out riding, POW or going burn around with friends or family, I'm like, I don't go near it. It's a turbo.
Mm-hmm.
Like the board, like it's so stiff. Like in the transition, it just has so much like pop and torque, you could say, I guess, coming out of it, which is great. But like when I've tried to go and ride it in POW, and I'm just like ragdolling because the thing is so camber, it just doesn't want to go this way at all. Like unless you really put force into it, which you do in the half pipe.
Just build up and just snap and explode the way James explained.
Yeah, we
so
explained to
eloquently.
us.
One thing I find kind of fascinating is like talking about James. He briefly, one of the things he said was like, we take these guys, we make sure they're I don't remember his verbiage, but he said, not distracted by certain things. Or I find that in this day and age, with everything going on, if you're trying to achieve something, distraction is a huge thing to battle with. Now, do you feel like you're doing well in that battle, and what type of things do you do to kind of combat distraction?
Yeah, I don't really have much distraction. I kind of eliminate that factor altogether. And I think it's probably just, I'm always just doing, again, it kind of goes back to what we were saying before. I'm just going through my days the way that makes me happy, and snowboarding the way that I want to snowboard. And but snowboarding, I think what's important as well, snowboarding is a part of my life, but I have a lot of other things that I do as well. And this is more on a competition side, because you can get so wound up about, the next competition and the expectation you have on yourself and whatever else. I think on that level, it's very important to be like, have other interests. Like you got to do something else. Like for you love motocross. For me, I love, I love collecting memorabilia. I love real estate, like just random stuff like that. Like for me, my distractions have been healthy distractions. They're not something that's going to deter me away from obviously what the end goal is. But, and also being very honest with yourself as well. Like I've always asked myself questions about how I'm feeling, and is this something I want to do? Is it, I'm more so on the side of like, I would probably benefit from a few more distractions because I'm so like got my blinders on all the time. And I got that a little bit, like my mum and dad have a crazy work ethic, and I kind of got that from them. Mm-hmm. And when we talked about my transition to like really want to do something in snowboarding, I got that from them. Like I was like, all right, I've set my mind on it now and I'm going to go for it. But yeah, I mean, I have great distractions in my life. I've got a great girlfriend. I've got amazing family around me. I have a few hobbies here and there. As I said, love real estate. I love thinking that I know something about the stock market, but I know jack shit. Keeps me occupied.
Heard you play the banjo, too?
I do.
Woo.
I do play the
That's
banjo.
sick.
I would say play is an exaggeration. I would say I try, but I try hard.
Our editor is sick with the banjo.
He is?
Yeah.
That's Chinatown Paul. We're going to give him an air horn.
Air horns. But the cool thing with the banjo is like if you pick up a guitar, you just suck at the guitar. when you pick up a banjo and you pick a few notes and whatnot, it's like, wow, it actually sounds pretty cool. And that's where I'm at.
I've never played it. What type of memorabilia are you collecting over there?
So the memorabilia thing's been something a little bit more recent. I've done it a lot. The past few years, I've had like a few of the like football teams in Australia give me some really awesome signed jerseys. And so I actually have a few. At one Peace Park, I had Burton have their Snurfs, and one Peace Park, I had this Snurf, and I was like, well, I probably won't ride it anytime soon. And we were finishing, and I think it was in 2017. I had Danny was there, Sebi was there, Mikko Bang was there, like all these obviously really sick snowboarders. And I was like, I'm going to get everyone to sign my Snurf. So I had everyone sign my Snurf, and I have it up in my house in Australia. It's got Peace Park 2017 on it.
Is it in the pool?
It's got to be in the pool room.
It's in the pool room, absolutely. But that was probably one of my first pieces. Ben Ferguson, actually, I had him sign one of his boards that he snapped in half in New Zealand. I had him sign that, and he gave that to me. So I've got like a bunch of stuff. More recently, I've definitely made a few more on the investment level, as I like to think of it when I'm putting my credit card down. I hope I see them grow as investments. But I got recently a Kobe Bryant number 8, which was his rookie year. Rest in peace, legend. But I got his number 8 jersey for Lakers, which was signed by him. And then one that's pretty close to you there, Granny, is Tom Brady.
Let's go. Got a super air horn, maybe.
And you know what?
TB12.
You might appreciate, I was actually looking at the Buccaneers helmet. This was before the Super Bowl too, so I was like, if they win the Super Bowl, I feel like if I buy this helmet, it might go up. But I was like, you know what? He has too much history with the Patriots. So I got the Patriots jersey, a white jersey, the one that he won all his Super Bowls in with the Patriots. So I got that. And then just recently I got a Tiger Woods signed President's Cup flag, number 2 of 100. So I'm definitely...
The pool room.
Yeah, the pool room's
looking good, dude.
Stacking up.
Now you got a cooler to put in there, too, a bomb hole cooler.
Yeah, that's it. Got the bomb hole.
Put a bomb hole right next to the TB12 for me, if you don't mind. That would be ideal.
I will. I'm going to do that just for you. How do you feel about Tom Brady? Do you have like a love-hate for him now since he moved to Tampa Bay? Or
there was a minute where I was torn, but it's like, dude, I love TB12, man. So, if you were to try to sign on to my Wi-Fi at my house, my Wi-Fi is Tom Brady GOAT. It's Tom Brady GOAT. And the term GOAT is thrown around very loosely, but
these days.
When it comes to football, TB12, just statistically alone, is the GOAT.
Yep.
Now, while we're on the subject of hot takes, let's get into some hot takes. And we like to talk about MJ of snowboarding. Who do you got?
MJ of snowboarding.
And that's Michael Jordan.
Yes.
I don't know if you're familiar, or Kobe, so you know basketball. I don't know. He's Australian. Sometimes I'm not sure.
Michael Jordan jersey, actually, I want to get one day. And sorry, I might be going off topic here, but I didn't realize I'm getting more into the collecting memorabilia. The agents make the cost of the memorabilia. So, like, say for example, I bought the Tom Brady jersey, and he's won a Super Bowl again just now. In theory, you would say, "Oh shit, my investment just went up," but it didn't. It's the agent that makes the prices for the memorabilia. So unless he says it's worth this much now, all of it's the same price. Gretzky, MJ, and a few of the other guys all have the same manager, and they all have the highest. All of their stuff is like.
Can you just give us a ballpark of what buying a Jordan jersey might look like? Because I have no fucking clue.
Okay, Jordan jersey, 23 Chicago, in the year of 96 is about 17,500.
Damn.
That's some biscuits.
Cha-ching, that is some biscuits.
That's one he's worn?
Not one.
That would be way more then.
Yes, one he's won.
So they just the players just run through. They sign hella jerseys and give them to the agent. Is that how it works?
So
well,
it's
how
just signed then.
Yeah. So, but how it works is like they do signings and they'll do like 500 pieces of whatever it is, or 100 pieces or whatever it is, and they sign them all, and then all these guys, all the enthusiasts, they buy them for at the like kind of cost price, I guess. Like they would make a car, they obviously get the margin after it. So they buy them and then they just start collecting them, and they have one of 200 or whatever.
Wow.
And the agents make the price. I was shocked. I was kind of like sad too, because I was like, damn it. Like my idea of, when you buy a house and you're like, this is going to be worth a lot in
The
a
real
decade.
estate market.
Yeah. I had the same mentality, but it's not. It's the managers.
That's crazy.
Well, that's actually perfect because we have some sports memorabilia. We're going to have some Scotty James signed prints, and the agent doesn't set the price we do, and it's the same every week. It's $25. So,
Perfect. I would have said 10.
But going back, who you got for MJ snowboarding?
Who's like, it's so hard because there's so many guys that have done so many things really well. Guys that have like portrayed snowboarding in the best light possible. Other people that have done it in another way, but they're still very iconic. And they're all iconic in their own way. It's a very boring answer, but I actually don't have an MJ of snowboarding, if I'm honest. Like
There's no wrong answer.
I think
Okay. I would almost say that's a wrong answer.
Yeah, that's the wrong answer. That's the only wrong answer.
who do you think is
We've
MJ
heard
of
Mike
snow-
Rav in here. We've heard Shaun White. We've heard JP Walker.
For me personally, the way I break it down is like, it's all, there's a lot of different ways to dissect it. It's subjective.
Dog in the booth.
Hey,
Phil, go on.
Out, buddy.
So my dog just came in. He somehow opened the door.
Yeah, that's some new shit, and it's a code.
Shout out to
he learned the code.
Shout out to Phil the dog.
Phil has cracked the code.
So going back to the MJ thing, like I look at when I was a kid and I was snowboarding, like who was like larger than life that had that big impact that made me want to go snowboarding. And for me, it was JP Walker because I would watch him in the videos and he just was iconic, and he was like kind of from the stuff I was into, he was the guy. A lot of people say Turrier.
For me, it's Turrier.
Some people look at it statistically, but the way that MJ like impacted basketball, the effect that had in my life in snowboarding was JP.
Okay.
So in that context, does that give you anything?
It does. Why Terrier for you, Eastern?
When
I'm
I
just
was a
curious
kid,
for your MJ.
That guy just did everything. When he came on the scene, he was winning contests, tearing up the pipe, putting out movies. And then you look at the longevity. For me, he's the one, and we get that a lot. I would say him and Shaun are probably the most called out.
For sure. Someone I think of right now off the top of my head who I always admired was actually Travis Rice.
That's another one we
That's a
get
great
often,
answer.
actually.
Yeah, he's I feel like he was just so much on his own journey I don't know, I just really appreciate what he did, because he did like obviously a lot of that, still does a lot of the backcountry stuff, but he just did it as well, the movies were incredible too. And I mean, he's one of those guys that kind of everyone knows too. If you talk about snowboarding, everyone knows who Travis Rice is.
He's won X Games too.
Yeah, he does.
He's kind of done it all.
And he's
Yeah.
still doing it.
And he's still doing it,
Yeah.
exactly. So, I mean, there's a few.
Yeah.
I would say it's hard. Honestly, it's hard for me to pick one because I would pick certain elements of probably 4 people that
Yeah.
I'm like, you're MJ. And they all do it like differently. So, and there's a few people on their way to being on that level. So like people like Mark and whatnot.
Yeah, true, huh?
So yeah.
Let's talk about the Ikon Season Pass.
They are launching their new season passes for the 21-22 season. Own the season, own the stories, own the stoke. Now, there are more than 40 unique Ikon Pass destinations. One of my favorites being Brighton Resort.
One of my favorites also, Snowbird.
With exclusive spring savings, including special pricing for the 2021 pass holder renewals, savings on passes for kids, and a new payment plan for how much, buds?
$0 down and 0% APR.
Right now, take advantage of limited springtime pricing, including the Ikon Pass. For how much, buds?
$999 is the adult price.
That unlocks the most days, the most mountains, and, super important, no blackout dates. They also have the Ikon Base Pass. For how much, buds?
$729 for adults.
That opens up a season of adventure with limited blackout dates. And lastly, they have the Ikon Pass 4-day. How much is that, buds?
The adult price is only $399.
That allows you to kickstart your ride. Also, you get credits in the event of a COVID-19 closure with the option to defer the value of an unused pass, no questions asked. Every moment spent in the mountains is a new opportunity for discovery and connection because as the mountains connect us, these unique communities are what hold us together. Here at the Bomb Hole, we deeply care about communities, huh, buds?
Community is all we got.
Own the season, own the stories, own the stoke. Discover pass options and claim your moments in the mountains at iconpass.com. All right, let's continue some hot takes here. One thing, I'll preface this with the fact that I think that steroids should be mandatory in competitive sports. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. I don't think you'd be able to really I mean, when I think of steroids, I think about that guy that's walking into Gold's gym that's like 300 kilo of muscle.
Me too.
That's what we all think about.
Yeah. So I don't think that would the agility of someone like that snowboarding. I just don't think it's gonna work. And my personal belief is keep it el natural. Kill it with what you got, what you've been given. So I can see. I mean, from what I understand, obviously it builds a lot of muscle, but I think from past, athletes use it as a recovery thing too. So I don't know. Have you ever fallen and wish you could have just had a bit of steroids to get back up and keep filming your video part?
Yes. Yeah. I think so.
There you go.
Yeah.
See, there's probably perks.
Yeah.
Do they do that in,
just think
in sports?
I think in
football and
conventional sport, I think honestly, if
a shot?
every single person that's trying to make it in American football as a teen, high school, it's a lot more common than you'd think. It's almost necessary. And obviously we're joking about steroids, but I just think the image of all the competitive snowboarders roided up, looking huge and just fighting at the top of the pipe.
It would make for some good TV.
It would. And it would definitely emphasize the whole pipe jock thing, because what better thing to add to being a pipe jock than taking steroids? Because you already go to the gym and we ride the half pipe too much, then let's put some steroids in there. Then what's more than being a pipe jock? I don't really know. How can we escalate that name a little bit more?
Roids. There it is.
Roids.
Mandatory roids.
Roid rage.
Roid. Okay, next question. It's more of a hot take. The beaver slap. When you're on the snowboard and you whack all the snow off. What are your thoughts about hitting a fat beaver slap in the lift line?
I used to do it a lot, I think, when I was younger, because I thought it was what you're supposed to do. And now I'm just unnecessary.
Kind of a way to
yeah.
You kind of establish alpha male dominance in the lift line with the beaver slap. Kind of let them know who's fucking king of the castle there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's maybe it's you can't do that with your skis.
That's a good point.
Watch this.
You know what they can do though? They can point, and then they can also do they clink them together
Yeah,
to
they
clap
clink
for their
them.
buddy.
Yeah.
The ski clink. That's another
The
benefit.
ski clink. Yeah, it's always a funny one. Watching skiers claim. They always have funny claims.
With their poles?
Yeah, with the poles and I don't know. What is your? I got a question. What is your both of you claiming? If you get to the bottom, you're
What, our take on claiming?
yeah. What is it?
If it was a sick run, it seems like you almost have to do it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? For the judges to be like, yep, he was stoked.
Yeah, competitive. I think you got to go claim.
Yeah.
What if you?
You got to go claim.
Because otherwise the judge might
Has
be
there-
like,
has
he
there-
could have done better.
Has there been a moment where you've come out of some crazy street environment rail where
Chris, for sure.
where you're riding away and you wish that you could have just been
I've claimed.
He's claiming.
you've
I've claimed. I've street claimed. I can officially
you
say
see street claiming goes down.
Yeah,
for
street
sure.
claim. There was a battle, I think specifically a line in Quebec City where I did like a revert and then a switchback rodeo off this thing, and I couldn't land it. My legs were getting the shit kicked out of me. It was a follow cam, so the filmer, Ozzy Henning, shout out, had to hike with me every single time. Anyway, and I landed it, and I remember if you hear in the clip, I was like, "Fuck yeah!" Like it's so embarrassing, but yeah, it is not cool to claim in the streets, though. That's a fact.
It's funny what you said before, Eastone, about like you should claim so the judges are like, did he just do something like amazing?
Just so wakes them up.
Yeah, my mom. When I was younger and I was like not doing very well, it was kind of through that period where I was trying to qualify for the Olympics, and my mum would come and come with me, and I didn't have a coach sometimes, so she was like there kind of coaching me, and I would never claim, and mum was like, "You need to claim, Scott." And I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Well, you kind of right away, like you don't care about what's just happened. I watch these other guys and they claim and they get way better scores than you." And I was like, okay. So I just started claiming, like I've just,
Started doing it.
yeah, just started doing it, and I claimed really hard and it didn't work.
Oh, it didn't work.
It
Maybe
didn't
they
work
could
at
tell
all.
you were faking though.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe
They
I
can
was like
see these
kinda
judges
half,
know, man.
They know, yeah.
They know when you're truly hyped.
But that was my mum, coaching me. She's like, you need to really give it a good claim at the end. But I claim.
Shaun White gets that 100, throws his board.
Yeah. I've seen some excessive claims.
Yeah, that
For
didn't
sure.
look excessive though. He looked pretty stoked.
One was Yuri Podlagikov, X Games in France.
Was he faking it?
No, he was real.
It was real.
I actually, the Swiss guys have the best claims in the world. You can quote me on that to this day. But Yuri finished his run. Don't know what he was thinking. Threw his board. There was like 5,000 people at the bottom of the pipe.
Scalp somebody.
Threw his snowboard, like threw it probably 6 feet in the air without any, idea of where it's headed. And I don't even know what happened, but it definitely smoked someone in the head. And
Yeah, if you're not watching.
Razor sharps too.
Yeah.
razor
pipe
sharp
edges.
edges. Anyway, I don't know what happened, but
Like throwing a fucking sword. Have you
Yeah.
ever picked up one of those half-pipe
That
boards?
is
These guys
like
are
throwing a
razor
sword.
fucking sharp.
It's like a battle
Dude,
axe.
if you try to board slide a rail on one of these hogs, you're going down. Fact. It's basically a suicide mission if you're on one of these things.
this is true. It is very true. It's probably why I'm so scared of rails. I'm terrified of them.
They need to
I
just
actually am.
try out Chris's board.
I do a
Little
little
detune.
slight, just ever so slight detune.
Just a little cheeky detune.
You guys, the edges, it's important to keep those things like really smooth too. People don't realize that. Like in order to have a fast board, they're like I need to wax.
No burrs.
You got to make sure your edges have no burrs, right?
That's true. That's very true. Ryan McDermott
He gets an air horn.
yeah, he gets a big air horn. Give him like 6 air horns.
He works on your boards too.
Yeah, he does my boards. He's just a legend. And yeah, I mean, the greatest thing about that is, I kind of always understood what a snowboard was. Obviously, like some technical parts, but when I listen to Ryan talk about a snowboard, I'm like still mind blown.
Really?
Like he just knows materials back to front and why, like for example, the boards I get made, I have like a matte top top sheet on my board, and it gets snow stuck on all the time, and I'm like, it's kind of pissing me off. Like I'm always having to scrape the snow off my board. And I went to Ryan. I'm like, I think I'm gonna get like a shiny top on the top of my board. And he's like, yeah, you could do that, but it's way heavier. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, it's much heavier than if you have a matte finish. And I was like, shit, I did not know that.
I didn't know that either.
He's weighed them, huh? I guess it's an extra maybe spray to make it shine. Huh?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Yeah, I think maybe the material is just a little bit. I mean, we're talking about like maybe like not much, but
it
like
matters,
it's the
maybe.
detail, and he looks at it, and as well, like the way he breaks down snowboards is everyone should know that. I think when you ride it, and it makes you have such an appreciation for the art it's really cool.
That is cool.
Now, do you get kind of sappy setting up a board where you kind of put the love into it and like kind of put a lot of time in it? I guess you have guys that tune your board.
Yeah, I still think it's important. Like, honestly, yeah, I'm not a great tuner, but I would wax my board like some of my other boards that I aren't really using in the half pipe. But I'm not like, I don't get all particular about like, I put my stickers on my board and put my bindings on it and I'm off kind of thing. But
Do you rock, what's your setup as far as width, stance, forward lean?
I'm 12 and 12. I don't know my stance, how wide it is. I think it's about 23 and a half, something like that. And then my nose and tail, I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah.
Who waxes your board when you're up here like Park City messing around?
I don't.
You don't?
No.
Damn.
I just ride it as is. I like to ride without wax sometimes, honestly. Makes me like use my...
Try harder?
Yeah. Yeah, basically. Try harder. But kind of use like old fundamental techniques I've learnt growing up as a kid too. Like, you don't wax your board every day when you're younger. You would probably have stones and rocks in it and you'd go up and still ride. It didn't matter. And I try and carry that mentality a little bit. Like for sure during events and whatnot, I have my boards looked after. But like I'm not, trying to wax my board. Like I've been here for 2 weeks now and I haven't waxed my board once.
I'll tell you what, I waxed my board before I went up today. I'm more prepared than him.
Yeah, you are. I might give you mine.
So
you knew you were going to be shredding with the big dog, though, dude.
Well, yeah, I said...
You had to show up.
I had to be like, if this is going to make me go 2 feet higher in the pipe, I'm waxing. I waxed it right where you're sitting right there. But going back, I wonder, like, personally, getting into some of this stuff, when you guys... There's a bunch of competitors there, and you're not necessarily there to be friends. Now, like, what's the vibe between... Just let's be real. Let's get into some shit. Like, what's the vibe between the other guys at the pipe? Are you guys like, hey man, like, how's your weekend? Like, we're buds, or are you kind of like, hey man, like,
is it small talk or are you vibing each other?
What's the vibe up there?
Throwing myself in the deep end, people can be like, this guy's such a dick. No,
just be you, man.
No,
let them know.
It's different now, and I kind of miss how it was because, like, I talk about these guys a bit because. Like we talk about like the Friends crew, for example. They were like so influential of going up, competing, doing well, and having a really good time. And they always did. There was always like something happening up the top. It's always a really good energy. Someone was making a joke. Everyone was like really getting around each other. And I always loved watching that, bit of that camaraderie. Now it's like gone. It's like not like that at all.
Damn.
It's very serious. And sometimes I feel a little bit like, am I responsible for that? I don't know. Like maybe like for me, when I would watch those guys do that, I did that because I was like, that's the right thing to do. But maybe because I'm being so, like, to me, I feel like I'm having a great time. Like I'm joking amongst myself and people that are around me. But like, yeah, I'm not going up to guys and cracking a joke and, asking how their weekend and telling them about my favorite things, movies I watch and whatnot. So I'm thinking like maybe the way I act is somewhat responsible of that energy now because I'm like pretty intense in the moment in the half pipe. And yeah, I kind of just want to kill everyone.
That's the real shit. I love it.
Said.
I'm giving you an air horn for that.
Yeah.
Dude, that's what we want.
Yeah. I beat around the bush for a while, but I got to the point at the end. But
slap some respect on that answer for actually saying some shit. I love that.
No, I do. That's my mentality. Because I don't know. I'm not up there to, as you said, I'm not up there to like be friends. I'm like, I've got one thing on my mind, and that's what I want to do. After.
What about a day like today? You're up there. Shaun White's up there. Are you guys making small talk, or are you just watching each other?
No, like we have small talk and whatnot. Yeah, I think like on practice days and whatnot, it's a little bit more relaxed
More
and
chill.
and there's definitely moments where it gets competitive, even practicing. But yeah, I think like me personally, that's like my intention for sure. But it's funny because it's like it's weird that I even beat around the bush with it, because if you're competing, like that's how you should be, right?
Yeah.
Like why would you want to? I get it. Like you want to make sure that you have a relationship with people up there and whatnot, and I think that's very important. But like, why would you want to compete without that mentality? Because what's the point of competing?
100%. Dude, did you watch the Michael Jordan documentary?
I did.
And
Amazing.
he's just like, he would make up narratives about how somebody wronged him so he could just dominate them.
Yeah.
Or somebody slighted them. And it's like,
He
dude,
would make it up.
Dude, yeah, you got to watch this shit. Last Dance. It's on, what's it on, HBO? I don't
I think
remember.
it's on HBO.
Netflix.
But
Netflix?
it's on Netflix, yeah.
Really good.
But dude, it's just be real. Like, yeah, if you're in that world where there's a lot of dollars to be made, there's TV time. It's like there's gold medals. There's like just serious things, you know, that are it's the top of the world. It's a top level of competition. Like, yeah, you got to do what you got to do to win that shit. It's not like we're fucking around in the half pipe doing a crippler 5 feet out where we're like, this shit's real. So I think it's cool to hear that you're, you know, where your head's at the top. And then one other question I have on this subject is like, I know that you put in a lot of work in the off season, and you've been kind of beating around the bush saying, hey, oh, I'm like, people think I'm this rigid guy, but I know you're regimented. But now when you're at the top, are you like, I'm prepared, I'm confident, or are you like, I'm fucking scared, what's going on here? This is gnarly.
For me, I'm very confident in what I'm doing. I've obviously put a lot of time into what I'm doing. And preparation for me is like pretty important. When I have really good preparation, you know, I've somewhat feel like invincible in a way. That word's pretty extra, but it's kind of just how I feel. And I think what's important is that when I get to have a really good preparation, where I feel like I'm got that 1% is I enjoy it. So I'm in the moment. It's very intense. You have all these aspirations. You got something you want to achieve. Might be a gold medal, might be a trick, or whatever it is. If you're able to be in that moment, but also still relate to why you're there in the first place, that's the ticket, in my opinion. So it's that's something that I always like thrive for. Yeah.
That's a great bit of information. That is the one thing of, like, I think that anybody can latch on to, knowing that. Now going back, I've been kind of trying to pry at this. I'm kind of fascinated by dissecting what makes people tick and how they get to where they're at. And, you know, one thing that would be cool to talk about is if you could just take us through your daily regiment of kind of what a day, like an average maybe training day looks like for you.
Average training day. I wake up 6:30, pretty much every day on the dot. Make a coffee, and then take the dog for a little walk. And I think one thing that's like kind of pretty key for me in my everyday is we live in a world now where everything is about like and dislike, and you know, there's a lot of superficial kind of bullshit that everyone really enjoys on the social media platforms and stuff that kind of just isn't really reality. I'm honestly not a massive fan of the whole thing, but unfortunately it's just part of the game nowadays. So in the morning, naturally, I find I could be pulling this out of my ass, but I feel like a lot of people wake up. Like, do you wake up in the morning or either of you wake up in the morning and instinctively kind of just go and check your Instagram? No.
I keep my phone upstairs,
Okay.
but
You don't?
I did for a long time. I did do that.
Yeah. So okay, so it's probably not relevant for you guys, but I'm more mean like my generation, right? So we've kind of grown up with social media, and it's so important to be socially accepted on a social media level. So you wake up and you check your phone and you literally roll out of bed. You haven't even opened your eyes yet, and you might have opened Instagram. And before you've even asked yourself how you're feeling that day, you've judged about 16 people just by sliding through your phone and looking at what they're doing and why you think that they shouldn't be doing that or whatever it is. Or maybe you like that thing and you want to aspire to do that before you've even been like, how am I feeling today? And I feel like that is such a, I don't know, it's just I guess a key thing for me every day, because we do live in a world now where it's one tap away from telling people how we feel, and it didn't used to be like that. And you can grow up and, you can go around in circles on it, but that's one thing I do in the morning. I don't get on my phone for about an hour at least after I've woken up. And then I make a smoothie. It's a new habit of mine. Make a smoothie. Then I kind of do some emails and do some work stuff. Then I do a lot of meditation. I meditate, and that's where I'll kind of spend time thinking about what I was just elaborating on of, how I'm feeling for that day. Did something happen yesterday that's affecting me today? How can I move forward to make sure that I can have the best day possible? And it's really about, I guess, living in the moment. And then have some breakfast. I vary between, I'm quite OCD now, I'm talking about it. One day I'll have scrambled eggs on toast with hummus and avocado. The second day I'll have steel cut oats. Then the day after that I have scrambled eggs again, steel cut oats, scrambled eggs, and so I do that every day. So I chop between the two. And then before I go riding, have a banana. And then that's it, start my day.
After an hour goes by, it's savage judging on Instagram.
Savage judging. Judging you, judging both of you. Okay, I'm going through going, these guys are kooks. I can't believe I'm going down to do this shit.
So then you get into the half pipe. How many hours do you ride?
Get in the half pipe. I ride about anywhere between 3 to 4 hours. Depends, the day and, how I'm feeling and whatnot. But yeah, about 3 to 4 hours.
And then I've heard sometimes you do 2-a-day workouts as well.
Yeah, so I have done. So when I'm not snowboarding, I think why I do this as well is I see snowboarding as my full-time job. And if you aren't busy, this might be a little bit of the work ethic that was instilled in me from a young age, but if you aren't busy doing something that's going to benefit, sorry, I say you, I mean me. If I'm not busy doing something that's going to benefit me snowboarding when I'm not snowboarding, then I'm not taking it seriously. Like, I'm not doing it to get better anymore. So I think being busy is people have probably said this before, but being busy is a choice. And for me, if I go snowboarding all day, I go home, sit on the couch and do nothing. I'm like, what is that actually helping me do for the next day? And then what I'm trying to achieve in snowboarding. So we have a lot of time, a lot of spare time, I find, as snowboarders. There's weather days, 4 hours in a day. I mean, there's 12 hours in a day. We ride 4 of that. And what else? What are we doing for the rest of that time? Is it doing something proactive? Is it, learning a language? Is it going to the gym? Is it whatever? That's just like how I think. I feel like there's always something that we could be learning. So that's kind of how I interpret myself away from the snowboarding world. But yeah, I mean, in preparation sometimes for the season, I have so much time in the day when I'm in Australia, for example, I'm not really snowboarding. I might go surfing. And yeah, I've been known to go pretty hard in the gym.
We just got to get you some roids and then we'll be all set.
Yeah, exactly. I might not be such a scrawny, lanky little guy if I had some steroids, but
going back, I mean, I asked you earlier, because James had mentioned how we make sure these guys aren't distracted, and you're like, oh, I have distractions. And it's like, well, that you kind of just answered my question there by, avoid the distraction of the phone early in the morning, the meditation. And, while we're on the subject of this, I've seen you at the top of the half pipe doing some kind of like going through the motions. It looks like some type of meditation. Do you think that the mental strength that meditation provides is a big part of why you've been successful?
Yeah, I think the mental side is I work on it every single day, morning and night. Like, I think all of us as people, we are evolving. Some stuff happens in our lives that isn't always good, and sometimes great things happen. And I think there's always a reason for that. And I think, again, if we spend so much time knowing other people that we don't know ourselves, and we are such complex individuals. And every single day, snowboarding is complex. There's elements of it that is complex, and I might have woken up feeling like I'm not good enough to go up there and do the things that I want to do. And why is that? Did someone say something to me yesterday? Or did something happen when I was snowboarding that's now making me doubt myself? And unless you actually pay attention to it and you really think about it, then you kind of never really like learn how to move forward. So I definitely spend a lot of time doing all that stuff. Like, for example, if we talk about a topic in Bombhole, and I wake up the next day and I'm like, shit, maybe like I shouldn't have said that, or what's my initial thought is I act on it and I text you and I say, hey, I'm not sure I feel comfortable about that, or you just address stuff that doesn't make you feel good. And I have no issue. I hadn't said anything today that I'm going to do that, but it could be something I've said to my brother or something I said to my girlfriend. We all feel a certain way because of our actions. And if we don't stay in tune and know why we feel that way, then you never know.
You're going to 100% wake up tomorrow and be like, oh, I should have said that, or I should have said this. 'Cause all our guests do. We always hear that a little bit.
Yeah.
100%. That's common, but that's very insightful. I think everybody can relate to saying some shit and then losing sleep over it at night and being like, or whatever. And then that's great. Just take action and address it. And I do think it's really important to check in with yourself. And I love all this stuff. And it's like, you look at the extremes of snowboarding, right? And you have like, there's a lot of people that there's some people that want to just get in a van, smoke a bunch of weed and slide handrails. And that's fucking dope. There's some people that want to go out on a split board, get in the backcountry, eat some fucking granola.
Point at shit
With their poles.
Yep.
I mean, I like doing that too. And then
I love doing that. It's like I go when I go do that stuff, I'm like, oh, see, I am core. See that like cornice up there? Yeah, don't know anything about it, but I see it. It's up there.
The point is definitely great. The pole.
Use backcountry terms. That saddle.
Yes, the faucets of the snow.
Coolar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. I just think that all directions hearing like, all right, this is what this motherfucker has to do to be on top of the podium at X Games when you see him. Another question I got, sidebar. I watch a lot of dirt bike racing, and these guys have their post-race interview dialed. I'd like to thank Dunlop, Michelin, to keep me rubber side down. I got a great team of guys. I got a great team of guys behind me, and we're just trying to keep it rubber side down out there and win races. Now, do you rehearse that for the halfpipe competition when you get the post-race interview?
Just go into the bathroom and practice it the night before. That's no, I don't do that. That would, it's funny you say that actually, because some people say to me like, God, you just sound like a hockey player when you do, and a classic hockey player. I've probably done it like several times. Say I didn't even notice. They always say, it's like, well, no, we don't know. That's why we asked you the question. It's like, it's like this or it's like that. And it is. It's like scripted. It's super scripted. And I like check myself a lot because it's important, obviously, to have personality. You want to, there's this perfect athlete picture. And none of us are perfect. We can all try and portray that image as well as possible. But I think, it's important for people to have flair, for sure. And however you want to do that flair is how you roll, and I respect that utmost as long as you're staying true to what you believe that flair is. But I understand what you're saying. It's like watching like football or hockey or motocross or whatever. It's just very vanilla.
Yeah, the answer, what they're going to talk about is like 9 times out of 10, you're going to just be completely scripted bullshit. But you know what I got a take for you I think you could maybe pick up on. If you ever watched the documentary on Sean Palmer, I've brought this up in the booth before, but you look at his interviews after he would win snowboard contests, and he'd just be like, I showed up, I went the biggest, I deserve to win. I think I can see you like just taking that approach to the post.
You think I need to have
run.
a little bit more commitment,
Yeah,
bit more swagger with my post-event interviews?
Yeah, you just like
Tell everyone what I really think of the other guys too.
I think it would be great.
This guy blew it. I went the biggest. I'm definitely the best. I think you should take that. I think it would be a great approach.
Okay,
I think so.
I'll take that into consideration.
The viewers
one
would
day.
love it.
Yeah. Let's see what others think though. I might get grilled, but it comes back to what we talk about. Who cares?
Exactly.
Another question I have is we've had James Jackson in the booth. Now, I don't know if we really what is he saying to you at the top of the half pipe before, like, let's say X Games Finals Run 2 gotta land?
James would love that I'm about to say this, but he has a somewhat relation. He's on the similar wavelength of Mr. Miyagi. I'll say, why didn't this work? And he'll just be like, wax on, wax off. I'm like, what does that mean? It's like, but somehow it makes sense. No. He would.
We said that in the show last week.
Yeah, you said that, Mr.
The
Miyagi.
show notes.
we did. Yeah.
I actually put that wax on, wax off clip in the show notes last night
Yeah, that's it.
because it seems like that is what he does. With
Yeah.
You guys.
He's he's an amazing. We always have this conversation where he doesn't like to be called a coach because a coach is too pigeonholed, which I totally understand and I respect. Because James has a lot more elements in what he does as a profession that helps some people like myself and other athletes reach their best. And that is his understanding and knowledge of why or how I perform the best. And that could be from any element. It could be what I ate that day or something that someone said to me has triggered me. And he really knows how to kind of bring it back to what the purpose is of that day, and which is to either go up, have a great day snowboarding, or go and win a competition. So he has a lot more elements in what he teaches, not just, hey, let's go up, do a frontside 1080 and try and teach me how to do a frontside 1080. Because sometimes the frontside 1080 is hard, not because the frontside 1080 is hard. It's hard because I'm in my head about it or something's happened, and he's very switched on about it. He's a very great observer. So yeah, he's definitely a amazing individual in that aspect. And for me, I'm also very lucky. Like, I surround myself with like-minded people that kind of see my vision and understand that. He's one of those people, and he's definitely like, I trust him 100%. When he tells me to do something, I know that he really thinks that I can do it. And if he's like, don't do something or whatever else, like, I'll do it. And even if I'm questioning myself, and between he and I, he's, I guess, from me as an athlete who's going up and doing those tricks and stuff, he's earned my respect to want to listen to him that much just by the way he goes about himself and his business and how he wants me to succeed. So he's great. Have I blown smoke up his ass enough now? Or?
No, he's the man. If you haven't seen his episode we recorded with James, and he has a lot of great insightful stuff on snowboarding as a whole, how to do tricks. And he seems like, when I'm listening to you talk, almost like a life coach, not a snowboard coach.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I mean, he's got the best of both worlds with James. He's a great snowboard coach. He can navigate you through some snowboard tricks, and he can also navigate you through things in life, and they're both just as important as the other.
And if he wasn't good at it, he wouldn't be there with you.
Exactly right.
Listen, we need to talk about Wild Mikes. The fact is, they are a sponsor, and you signed a contract guaranteeing them certain concessions, one of them being spot on the show.
Well, that's where I see things just a little differently. Contract or no, I will not bow to any sponsor.
I'm sorry you feel that way, but basically, it's the nature of the beast.
Maybe I'm wrong on this one, but for me, the beast doesn't include selling out. Stoney, you know what I'm talking about, right?
It's like people only do things because they get paid. And that's just really sad.
I can't talk about it anymore. It's giving me a headache. Here.
Drink one of these.
The bomb hole. Banter. Edgy. Cheddar biscuits.
Look, you can stay here in the big leagues and play by their rules, or you can go back to the farm club. It's your choice.
Yes. And it's the choice of a bomb hole generation.
Let's take a quick break and talk about our sponsor, Wild Mike's Ultimate Pizza. We always break the ice with our guests by eating pizza and cheesy bites before recording. All of their products are 100% all natural, no artificial anything. No joke, the pizza bites are incredibly tasty. Chris, have you tried the jalapeno?
Yeah, those shits are bomb.
Those are my favorite, dog. They support us. You should support them. Follow them on Instagram at Wild Mike's Pizza. They're always doing cool giveaways. All right, let's get back to the show.
Let's get back to it, buds. Now, we have a guest question from none other than James Jackson. Here we go.
Hey, Bombhole listeners, this is James Jackson. Just a quick question for Mr. Scotty James. Wondering if you've had any obscure injuries from the Sochi Olympics.
Yes, I have had an obscure injury from the Sochi Olympics. To answer that question, this was when I was doing slopestyle, and it's when the backside triple cork was, still is a big deal, big trick, I guess, that everyone does. But I was doing the backside triple cork, and I was so adamant. I just was like, I want to land it, and I want to make this, slopestyle experience really good. Anyway, long story short, it was really weird. We had like 2 days of competition because they ran the event before the opening ceremony. I don't know why they did that, but they can't officially do that. So we competed twice. So I crashed the first kind of qualifying. So I went in and I was feeling good. I did a backside triple on the last jump. The jump was quite big. And as I was coming down, I kind of went a little too far on the landing. And I was going to hunt for my feet to put them down and land. But it couldn't, it would have been this, how I missed my toe edge on the snow. Missed my toe edge. I thought I was going to catch my toe, land on my toe edge and right away. Missed it. And it was like I did the worm on the ground. I did this. I just rolled. From my feet, I rolled and I just boom. And I think you can understand where I hit. Straight on
These nuts.
On my helmet. And I went down and I was in proper agony. I was I've done something. And I don't know how in detail I can get on here, but think about getting a grape. This is what it felt like. And think about the motion of the worm. Getting a grape and getting a hammer and just smashing the top of it and it explodes. That's what it felt like. Damn. It just happened. Because it went like this. It went boom like that. And I put all my weight down in my family jewels. And I was down the bottom. And they were doing all the TV stuff, and I just had to run away. And I went with the physio, the Australian team, and I just, no shame, ran in there, just stacks down to my ankles. And I was like, I was fully I've done something. And I had him actually look, and I was like, I was convinced that it was
that you popped the head of your penis.
Yeah,
you're just calling a spade. Wait a cut to it.
Yeah, I was convinced that happened, and fortunately, that didn't, but yeah, that was pretty terrifying.
That'd be a harsh injury.
I haven't heard
would be harsh.
not a lot of dong injuries in snowboarding.
No.
Not common.
Well,
A lot of
I'll
butt
consider
cheek
myself-
spreading, but
well, butt cheeks.
The butt cheek
bad.
spread is
Yeah.
bad when you're like, did I shit myself or is
Yeah,
it blood? I've
you
had
don't
that
know.
before. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
And
bad
it was
one.
shit, actually. I can confirm that in my one instance.
Like on a rail, or like when you've come down on the snow.
It
and
was
it's-
it was a over rotate jump landing and like just butt check going high speed jump landing and then the cheeks spread. So anyway, I ended up having shit in my pants and but I will take that over a dong injury any day of the week.
Yeah, it's not pleasant.
I don't even know what they do for you at the Russian hospital that you didn't want to be in the first place.
Yeah, no. I don't even think there was a hospital in Russia. That
Yeah,
was
that
an
Russia can
interesting
get sketchy.
experience in itself, honestly. Yeah,
Well, been to Russia, it's definitely an experience.
it is. It's pretty interesting.
Food's not so bueno. What'd you do about your like eggs
I-
every other day and
I
steel
had-
cut oatmeal? And
No, I hadn't quite hit that
Oh, okay.
time in my life yet where I was pretty on a schedule.
'Cause I'm pretty sure I ate some pigeon when I was there.
I had spaghetti because everything else was just not great.
Not
Spaghetti,
good.
breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Really?
Yep, bolognese with but not good bolognese. It was like some crappy red tomato sauce with just spaghetti that had been sitting there all day.
Harsh.
All kinds of weird smells sometimes coming out of those restaurants and hope I'm not offending people, but sometimes you're like, damn, what's going on back
One
there?
thing we like to ask champions on this show, what are your thoughts on sperm retention before the big contest run?
Never really been a big deal for me.
Well, do you do it or don't do it?
Well, I don't care either way.
Either way.
Yeah.
You don't even think about
Interesting.
it.
Don't think about
Interesting.
Because we have facts that Sage, before his winning run.
it. Yeah,
He
really.
JO'd the night before at Sochi.
Was that by choice or was he just super isolated and didn't?
We didn't get into the details of material reasoning or
Well, I know his roommate. 'cause
motivation.
You usually have roommates, but his roommate got sick, so was gone. So he had his own room. So at
Oh,
least
that's
that
yeah,
accounts
that's a
for
classic
something, I guess.
scenario there.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a classic scenario.
Give a young man his own room, and I guess it might just happen, huh?
Yeah.
You know, what are we, Olympics, is that next year?
Yep.
What's next for Scotty James? What do you got on the docket for us?
What's next? I'm just really enjoying snowboarding and I've got some things I really want to achieve in the halfpipe trick wise. So just all focus on that and obviously, we just get ready for next winter and all the competitions and I guess the Olympics is next year. I don't really put an emphasis on it, honestly. Every year I want to go and do the best that I can and snowboard the way I want to snowboard, and if I win, I win. So, that's kind of what's next for me. And hanging out in Park City, we have one more event in Aspen, and it's been a strange year this year with everything. We haven't been competing as much, but it's also been kind of nice, being able to really spend some time on some things that I've been thinking about with tricks and whatnot. So that's kind of what's next. Going to spend a lot of time in the US, training in the springtime or riding. I always do that. Sometimes I feel like I say training, but I don't really feel like I'm training snowboarding. And I don't really like saying training because it's not really like I'm up there. I guess there's elements, like you said, with the days in the pipe where it's not that enjoyable and the weather's kind of crazy and the halfpipe's a bit scary. There are days I feel like I'm training. But any other day I'm going snowboarding.
True.
Yeah.
But there is this other element of halfpipe snowboarding. We're going down another wormhole. Who gives a shit? Basically, Shaun White had his own private halfpipe, right? And with a foam pit, and now luckily there's airbags and whatnot. But I mean, let's call a spade a spade. It is training at a certain point. When you guys have your own private halfpipe and there's a team of people, it is snowboarding, but it ain't snowboarding when you're just going to the resort. And I mean, maybe you frame it that way, but
Yeah, no, you're right. There is an element of it, and I've never felt the luxury of just being in a halfpipe by myself. I haven't asked Sean about that either, but he reaps through the rewards, as you guys have seen. But there is a element of training for sure. But I guess you're right. Maybe that's just me feeling like it's not the right thing to say. Snowboarders don't train, but we kind of do, I guess. I'd like to ask a question for you both, and it's back on what we were talking about with, I guess, maybe brands in snowboarding and how you guys perceive what it is, what it looks like moving forward. Because for someone like myself, and then obviously the new generation coming through, it's so important to have a social influence. And I hate that word influencer, because most people that are influencers haven't really done anything that's influential. And when I say influential, I'm talking about people like Tom Brady, the Michael Jordans. So the word influencer is kind of just been destroyed, in my opinion. But now, like, you know, whenever we do contracts, for example, and I'm curious, that's why I wanted to ask you, is it's in there, like, you are paid basically to what you can really like how you are going to influence people on a platform. Fortunately for me, I've had really good, relationships with my sponsors now, and I'm really well looked after, like Red Bull and Oakley and whatnot. But with new people, like new brands and new people you want to get involved in, it's such a heavy conversation, because for me, for example, like I look at it like I've come out of an event or a season and I feel like I'm doing really well and I'm dominating and whatever else. I'm like, I feel like I should be deserved to be paid what someone that's doing that should be. I don't know if I'm phrasing this the right way, but it's not. It's all about, which I think kind of sucks, because I feel like when you are really good at something like snowboarding or anything, the real people that are really good at it kind of don't get what they deserve anymore, because they can go and pay someone else that's got 1 million followers, but somehow they have more influence than someone that's actually talented. They're amazing at what their passion is. We're talking about snowboarding case. And they've dedicated themselves to it. And we talk about training and all this other stuff, or filming video parts. And as well, it's all about instant gratification. It's like no one wants to wait anymore for someone to film a video part. So I'm just curious. I wanted to ask, I guess, both of you what you thought about that, and if you've experienced it.
Bud, do you want to anything to say?
I mean, I feel like there's still the big dog snowboarders are still getting their due. The Travis Rices, the Bodies. I mean, Chris. There's still a crew, and then I would hope guys like yourself are still getting pretty good money over the guy that has 1 million followers and no skills. But it's probably going to head that way,
Well, yeah,
I guess it's a shame.
There's definitely a lot of layers to that. That there's a lot there, and talking about a lot of the stuff, like to be devil's advocate, for example, like we have the Bomb Hole store. People can buy merch, and we can see directly if there's like a post, people bought it because of the post. It's like the Instagram really is a direct consume, like it's a direct metric of sales in a way. I'm realizing from a brand standpoint from that lens. So I'd see the power of like, okay, if you're a business and we are in the business of capitalism and making money, then like the metrics of your value a lot of times is depicted on how much product you sell, right? So there's a lot of layers to the fact of like people like to know, like people latch on to some personalities, and some personalities people like to know who to cheer for. People like to have their favorites and certain things like that. So like, it's just it's a weird thing, like with teams, even going to like snowboard teams, I find it's like you gotta, I'm kind of getting into the weeds with some of this stuff, but like, each team is a band of people, and as a unit together, that's what makes a team, and you buy into that team. Like for example, a snowboard company, what makes a snowboard different? The team makes the snowboard different. That's what makes a ride snowboard different than a Solomon snowboard. It's not, in my opinion, is like the team drives the the narrative behind like why you buy something. So there's like a lot of different layers. And then going into the social media thing, yeah, it sucks. Like video parts are completely sacred. I think that what's it called? Like prolonged gratification of a video part, of taking all year working towards something and then eventually seeing it is a sacred thing. We have named that video part. It's a part of what I've raised my life on. Getting last part was what I built my life around for a long time. And now that what's gone because you just put it instantly on Instagram. So I think that like the people that are going to do it and it's worth watching, make movies. The kids coming up, put your shit on your gram. And then as far as like people, you know, like yourself, like, you know, guys winning, you're the most winning half pipe snowboarder that exists right now. Right. And it's like, why is there not a zillion sponsors lined up? You know, and I don't know the answer to that too, in some senses. I don't know if that's what we're getting at, but it's, I don't know. That was kind of a lot, but
yeah, no, it's true. No, I just was curious what your guys' thoughts were on it, because for me, yeah, it's not saying like, yo, I should have way more sponsors than I have. It's more like, I feel like the brands, I get it from both sides. I'm like, of course they want the exposure. Like print media is just not really like happening anymore. It's all about getting it on the web and the Instagram and whatever. But I feel like it's really back on the brands to be like, well, like who are you picking? Like why are you picking them? Because nowadays it's just so diluted with like, I guess, what's right and wrong between like who's sponsored and who's not. I mean, nowadays there's like a fraction of people being hooked up than there used to be. Like when I was 13, you know, Nike came into the business and like a lot of people were on really good money, which I still would wish that were the case in snowboarding, but it's not. But just because of like maybe us not having the social presence.
That's a great
point.
It's
not because we're not talented or not doing things that, you know, isn't what we weren't doing before. It's purely because your social presence isn't, that you don't deserve the money because you don't have the social presence.
Yeah, that's the metric they use.
Yeah.
But going back to the point about the industry, the way I see it, and I could be completely wrong because I don't have any metrics on like dollar amount in the industry, but if you were to take, it's almost like the pie 20 years ago was this big. And then the pie is the same size now. Like it's like the amount of money in snowboarding maybe hasn't grown or shrunk or whatever. I don't know any metrics on that. But the amount of good snowboarders has exponentially skyrocketed of how many kids that are really good that are eligible to be sponsored. So the way I see it is there's just a lot more people fighting for that same size pie. And the way that gets divvied up is then the conversation we're having now, but is about the social media and whatnot. But I think there's just more people fighting for the same pie, and how they divvy it up is fucking who knows.
Seems to me there's more snowboarders on the mountain than ever, though.
Yeah.
It's great.
But there are less brands than there were, or more brands now. There was less brands back then. I don't know. It's tough. Tough formula that I guess no one has the answer to yet.
Yeah, that's true.
But if you kill it and do what you're doing and have that good social following, that's probably the formula right there.
Yeah. But that's the question too. It's like, I mean, there are people that are exceptional at both, but like I have trouble where I'm like, I just want to snowboard and I want to be the best that I can. And then sometimes I find myself just worrying about crap. Like, oh, when was the last time you put up an Instagram? And then you kind of just like, you just get taken so far out of what actually means anything. And for sure, you got to evolve because it is part of it. And I genuinely am fortunate. I have my brother travel with me. We love making content and I like putting out there and I like, you know, getting that repetition, that flow of putting things out there and of what I want people to see. But it just has so much weight now. Mm-hmm. But anyway.
How many followers you got on the gram?
Me, I think 209,000.
That's a big chunk for snowboarding.
Dude, and that's I think it's humans though, all that interaction. I mean, let's go down this wormhole, but I think that's almost too much for people to handle. Like it's like we're, you know, all that like phone buzzing every 2 seconds, somebody's liking or didn't like, or this one people didn't like this post, and I think it's, you know.
Do you let your phone buzz with all your likes and shit?
No, I don't let it buzz, but just like instinctively, if I do a post, I'm gonna check it pretty regularly for that little dopamine hit. And I don't know that like this is what I think with social media. I feel like we're in the era when cigarettes first came out and everybody's like, dude, cigarettes are great. Let's smoke them.
Surgeons are
they're on
doing
commercials
surgery,
and like,
smoking.
and maybe in like 20 years, I'm like, remember when we were doing all that social media? I don't think it's that good. We kind of fucked
They
all these.
say that's why suicide's up, you know?
I don't know.
Yeah, seriously. As well too, though, I look at I love Formula One, and I like a lot of like motocross. What I feel like would really benefit snowboarding, which we don't have right now, and it's been an issue for a long time, is this is purely just on a competitive level. We don't have one world tour, and we don't have a tour that leverages us to the public in the right way. And I'm using Formula One as an example. A lot of those guys don't even go on Instagram, but everyone follows Formula One, and F1 have one of the best social media platforms that you ever want to follow. But they are promoting nonstop the people that are on that tour, and and making sure that their presence, I guess, is just done without them even being on there. And I'm not saying that you should just we need to find that so all of us can get off social media and leave a snowboard tour to do it for us. I'm just saying we don't have that at all. So I feel like there's this whole element now where we have these tours. I mean, we have 2 tours. We have the FIS tour, World Snowboard Tour. I think there's another one. And it's like no one can follow it. And how do we get people involved in following it? And I think a lot of people have tried to start it up, and I'm not sure kind of where it gets left off, but we don't really have that right now. Like we don't have I guess an event tour that is doing that, and it's making it harder for people to follow. Therefore, the interest is quite low. And maybe it's my shit. Maybe I should be talking about it more or something. But
I'll tell you what, if there was like every Saturday night, for every other Saturday night in the winter, there was a half pipe and a slopestyle contest, I would be loving tuning in. I would be gambling on it. I would be picking my guys. I would have brackets. I'd be, we'd be talking about it in the booth. It would be great. I'm a fan of competition. I love Supercross. I love football. I like watching all that stuff. And it's like that definitely lacks. I mean, you have the X Games. Fuck, I don't even.
Who does a good job is Red Bull, man.
Yeah.
I was watching last night that longest urban BMX downhill, 2.5 million views.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Everything they do. I mean, even Travis's contest, the views they got from that contest.
Yeah,
that's a tour. That's actually kind of, but it's a totally different kind of tour. But
yeah, I mean, they do a great job with it.
Like, I feel like there should be one tour that is run by snowboarders. I mean, Terrier's.
Yeah, he argued for that a long time.
He did. He's been a big advocate for something like this. And maybe we, I guess collectively, we meaning us competitors, we haven't come together to really try and nut it out. But I think, I think it would be amazing to have one, I said surf tour because I was going to say WSL. They're another good example. But one tour that has, okay, you got your half-pipe events, you got your slopestyle events, and then let's just say we're going to put in the natural side, which is the supernatural. And that's the tour that people follow. There's one platform. All those events fall under that same flag, and that's how you follow snowboarding. There's no other way. There's not, 10 other links that you got to follow to watch one event. Like, I think that is going to be such a... one day, hopefully it happens, would be such a big change for a positive light in terms of, getting sponsors a part of more frequently, and then I guess that presence of social media. And Red Bull do a great job. I mean, they have Red Bull TV and whatnot, and they always do an amazing job of broadcasting it. But I feel like it would be cool if we had one tour and then they became that, like, okay, you want to watch your event on Saturday night, where you're going to go and watch that event on Saturday night. Whereas right now it's like, where's the link for it? How do we watch it? Where is it? What's the time difference? Like, that's
very true.
It's so hard to watch, and I think it's making it really hard for people to get involved because it's just like,
Now, I got a question because I'm unfamiliar with this, and I know FIS. Turrier has always been trying to, band people together against FIS. Now, why are some people pro and why are some people con? It's never been explained to me.
I think because
it's a federation of skiers.
Yeah, it's
to
a
be
skier,
clear.
skier ran group.
It's a
I think
skier
is
run
the biggest
group.
thing he had an issue with.
It is a skier run group, and that's
skiers making money off of snowboarding.
Exactly, and that's where Terrier's biggest argument is, which I totally understand and respect. But I think, to answer your question, it's because I just don't think like an opportunity has really, because now we have people like countries getting involved you've never heard of in snowboarding, and they don't really care who runs the event. They're going to do it. If they're going to get to the Olympics, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to throw this word around lightly, but I almost feel like it's getting to the point where the snowboarding community need to sign something that says we're going to be loyal to this, because without us, it won't happen. We're going to sign this, and we're going to, boycott everything until we get it the way that we want it. And it's going to fall under this flag, and that's how it's going to be. There just hasn't been that turn yet.
It would take just a handful of the marquee dudes. That's it. If you take away yourself, Mark, Mick, the dudes that are on the podium week in, week out on all this shit, it really, like, if you're not in it and the main dudes aren't in it, shit, I'm not watching it. I'll tell you that right now as a consumer of it. You got to figure out who we're talking about this off the cuff, but there's the main dudes, the person that I've never heard of from, I don't mean to be disrespectful, some country that has a crazy team that trains into airbags, they're not drawing the crowd. They're not drawing the views, and I think that, I think it would be cool if snowboarders kind of banded together and did something cool like that.
A few years ago, there was, they created this, I think it was like Chaz, Gouldmond, a few others, Mark was in there. I guess all of us, we met at the US Open, bunch of riders, started this thing called We Are Snowboarding. And that was probably the closest thing I've seen so far to this transition. And I feel like it just gets to a point where it gets so tough for everyone to kind of navigate corporate people, because they have the vocabulary maybe that we don't.
Yeah.
But it can get to a point where it gets very just hard to achieve, and they make it really hard to get there. And I think, as we just said before, that's probably what's going to turn the page. And it would upset a lot of people, probably. But I think that's what really has to happen.
And what who's to say? All right, what if FIS ran the Olympics, right, or something, and then this circuit, which it's like Street League. Does Street League have anything to do with the Olympics? I don't know, but skateboarding has Street League. That's the one I would really. Rob Dyrdek and those guys just took control of skateboarding with that.
Yeah,
same as the World Surf. What is it called? WSL.
Yeah, WSL.
Same deal, I'd imagine. Right?
Well, that's the thing, right? Those like WSL. Their events are what qualify you to go to the Olympic Games. We don't have that. FIS is how you go to the Olympic Games, and some World Snowboard Tour events. So a lot of those other sports and those, they have that tour, and they have that following, and they have people that are genuinely interested in it. Whereas we don't. We kind of just have like a lot of different tours and a lot of different random events. Mm-hmm. We need to make it one ourselves, come together, and it's like, that's how you qualify for the Olympics. That's how you get the exposure to do anything in snowboarding competition world. Anyway, go on forever about it.
No, it's good to have a conversation about that. I mean, that's a step in the right direction. Skiers shouldn't be, not that I got anything against skiers, but they shouldn't be controlling the snowboard federation. That's for damn sure. But we got to come together. I like that, good conversation to start it. Who knows? I mean, sure, it's been happened a million times, but we're talking about it.
Yeah.
So lastly, I think we've been chatting for a while. Do you have anybody you want to thank before we kind of wrap this thing up?
Well, thank you both for having me. It's been an honor. Honestly, it's very cool to get in and talk about snowboarding. I honestly don't really dive into much depth often about my experience in snowboarding and why I am who I am now, and being very transparent and honest about my beliefs. It's not something I do very often, so thanks for giving me that opportunity. And of course, obviously my mom, dad, Beck, Sean's actually in the booth.
Give them all an air horn.
Yeah. Tim, my family's been such an amazing support, as well as my sponsors, Red Bull, Oakley. I've through everything, it's been an amazing journey, and I'm very grateful. I mean, it's not a one-man show. There's many people behind that help me to make all of my visions come to fruition. So very grateful for them, and I think that's about it.
Well, beautiful. We want to thank you for coming on the show, and thank everybody for listening. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, Scotty. And we'll see you next week. Over and out from the bomb hole.